watching CramerSez.
Sheer meanness of our political discourse these days will subside for a time. It would be nice if it would last a long time. I think it's too early to get our hopes up for that.
Well, Britt, thank you for dialing in. Please don't go away. You covered many a campaign, and this is a day that we hope will have an ending that is much better than it appeared it may be just moments ago. Always good to caution that we wait and see, and we are waiting a word from the Secret Service, from the Trump campaign, to find out the status and the condition of President Trump, who walked out of there, it appeared. The care of law enforcement at every level, primarily federal, when they go out and do this as a former president. Your thoughts on what we've seen this afternoon?
Well, you know, Shannon, this is one of the worst nightmares of law enforcement, specifically the Secret Service, who are charged with protecting the presidents and the former presidents of the United States. When you got a large crowd like you have here, that former President Trump was speaking before, you have all kinds of law enforcement, Shannon, around. You have state, local, and you have federal, and you have specifically the Secret Service. Now, if you see the various pictures of President Trump here on the stage and how the Secret Service moved in right away to get him off the stage, you can see about his face that there appear to be some blood. So there may very well be some injury, and we're just going to have to wait to learn more. But this is something that law enforcement plan for, but no matter how much you plan for something like this, you never can get it 100% right if there's someone hell-bent on injuring a president of the United States. If you remember many years ago, Shannon, in Laurel, Maryland, George Wallace was speaking before a crowd there. and someone in that crowd shot and injured the presidential candidate, George Wallace, at the time. There are always these incidents, and they are deeply concerning and troubling.
Absolutely. I want to read something just coming in. The former vice president, Mike Pence, who, of course, was vice president with President Trump, says this in a post moments ago. He says, Karen and I are praying for President Trump and urge every American to join us in that. I am quite sure that is what is happening at this moment for those who have witnessed what we saw there today. So, Ted, we understand. Listen, Secret Service, their priority is protecting the president and getting him out of there. But now we've got a crime scene investigation. What happens in the moments after we watch all of this play out when it comes to law enforcement and investigating what just happened there at that scene?
Well, immediately, Shannon, what happens is that area in which the shots were believed to have been fired is now a crime scene. So what law enforcement is doing is that they've roped off that area to preserve it. Now, they're also trying to talk to any and everybody in that crowd who may very well have seen something. We don't know at this stage as to whether they've taken anybody in custody. But what is happening now is that you're going to find state, local, and the FBI there processing what is now a crime scene. And so as a result of that, many of the bystanders that are there on that scene are going to be perhaps witnesses or to help law enforcement to try to determine what took place here this afternoon there.
All right, Ted, please don't go far. I want to check in with my colleague, Brett Beer, joining me on the phone now. Brett, this moment is shocking. This is not something our country ever wants to experience or see. May have lost Brett there. Let's check and see. Okay. Ted, if you're still there.
Yes.
Okay, Carl Rove. Carl, let me bring in Carl. Ted, don't go far. Carl, the same question I had for Brett there. I mean, this is a moment that you are always bracing yourself for when people of this importance and this magnitude and this, history in our country, a former president, when they take to the stage in the middle of a heated campaign, you never want to think this is going to happen. There's always got to be planning for it. But your reaction to this shocking moment? Carl, if you can hear me. All right, I'm going to come back to Ted because I think he's still with us. Ted, you talk about the investigation and the fact that we now have thousands of people who are potential witnesses to this crime scene. And what is the timeline for processing a scene like this, for identifying a suspect, for identifying what even happened? Because, we're going with the best of what we can tell from watching this event a few times over on tape.
Well, Shannon, there's really no time line or time period for processing. They're going to methodically take their time, meaning law enforcement, to process this crime scene, to talk to individuals who may have seen anything. They're going to also try to pull as much of the video feed as they possibly can to try to see what took place there in Pennsylvania this afternoon. And it's a very challenging scenario and situation that law enforcement is faced with. But they're trained to take on these kinds of situations. I would have to believe at this stage that, of course, they know quite a bit more than perhaps they're going to tell us. The big question that I want to know, and I'm sure America want to know, is do they have anybody in custody? Or is it just one person? We found, we can go back as far as John F. Kennedy, when he was shot there in Dallas. It was thought to be more than one person other than Lee Harvey Oswald, if you remember. And there was a big investigation. What they're doing right now is preserving this crime scene, trying to find out as much as they possibly can about the shooter or shooters that fired maybe a weapon there. But I can tell you, when a presidential candidate is on the stage like that, normally they have bulletproof vests on. and the Secret Service is surrounding them. And if you notice there how fast the Secret
Okay.
Service converged on Trump here was real immediately.
Okay, Ted, thank you very much. Don't go far. Lucas, we're hearing now from the Secret Service getting some kind of reaction and update to what happened. What do we know?
Well, Shannon, we just received a statement from the White House which says, and I'm just going to read it, President Biden has received an initial briefing on the incident at former President Trump's rally. It's notable, Shannon, that they are not calling this a shooting right now. And the Secret Service also out with a new statement saying, quote, an incident occurred the evening of July 13th at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. The Secret Service has implemented protective measures and the former president is safe. This is now an active Secret Service investigation, and further information will be released when available. So the big takeaway from there, Shannon, is the Secret Service and the White House are not calling this a shooting right now at former President Trump's rally. They're merely calling it an incident. So we'll stay tuned on what more they have to say, Shannon.
Okay, Lucas, thank you very much. I think we've got my colleague Brett Baer with us now. Brett, that latest statement from the Secret Service saying the former president is safe. Your reaction to this moment unfolding in the middle of a very heated election campaign?
Yeah, Shannon, I'm on my way actually to a plane to Milwaukee, obviously, to start our coverage tomorrow night for the Republican convention. And this obviously a major surprise, reaching out to campaign officials and officials around the campaign. Everything we've heard so far is that there's some kind of nick on the ear. You saw the picture, the close-up of the blood on his face, but everything we're told so far is that the former president is okay at this point. You saw the Secret Service move very quickly and surround him in a matter of seconds as you look at that video. And, it's reminiscent of past presidents like President Ronald Reagan. And you've seen those images before. Fortunately, it appears that this is not that. And it's interesting that the White House put out that statement. There is an investigation ongoing, but we're getting it by the minute here. Most importantly, the word we're getting initially is that the former president is okay.
Yeah, I mean, Brett, that is the most reassuring thing, especially after seeing him there. And we could hear the audio as the Secret Service seemed very ready for him to get moving. And he's saying, let me get my shoes on, pumping his fist for the crowd, trying to indicate it seemed like he was walking off on his own. They were shuffling him out of there and obviously creating a protective cordon around him. So he may have been completely fine to walk, and maybe it appeared a little bit slowed down simply by their efforts to protect him, surround him, and get him down those stairs and get him out of there. We do know that President Biden has been briefed. As you said, I mean, we're here in Milwaukee. This is just a couple of days before they officially begin their kickoff here. What do you think may be the impact of this? Because we have just felt that this country is so divided. And now we're looking at a moment which to everyone, every decent person in this country is something they never want to see in any political rally.
This is a moment where our country is in a really precarious position. You have a Democratic Party that is, in turmoil. The president's saying he's sticking it out and he's going to run. However, there's a lot of talk about whether he is or whether he isn't. But this incident is a big moment, and we have to find out all the details and what exactly happened and where those shots came from or what they were. We don't have a lot of details on that, but it just adds to this tumult that we are seeing in this country as we head towards the conventions, the Republican convention first, and hopefully, it's going to be peaceful. There will be increased security, guaranteed, Shannon, with all that we're seeing so far.
Brett, I want to read this just coming in. Brooke Singman from us, one of our colleagues here at Fox, has this urgent statement from the Trump campaign saying President Trump thanks law enforcement and first responders for their quick action during this heinous act. He is fine and is being checked out at a local medical facility. More details will follow. So, Brett, again, another assurance, the first coming from Secret Service and now from the Trump campaign itself, that it sounds like he is doing well. And whatever the intentions were of whatever happened there at the rally, it sounds like he's going to be just fine. And probably, I would guess, you knowing him, I knowing him as many folks know him, probably more fired up than ever to get back out there on the campaign trail.
Yeah, and I think that just the indication that he wanted to get up and raise his fist after that moment, I think was an image he wanted to portray. I think there's a lot to know where things are coming from.
Absolutely. Brett, thank you very much. Safe travels. We will see you here very shortly in Milwaukee. Excuse me. I want to make sure that we get to nationally syndicated political reporter Selena Zito. She is a Pennsylvanian. She is somebody who has a Pennsylvanian, I guess would be the right term. She covers this state border to border, knows it inside and out. You were there at the rally, Selena. Can you tell us what you witnessed?
Yeah, so I was here at the rally. I've been here since 12 o'clock this afternoon. I had actually met with the president for a couple minutes before he went out on the stage. He was in great spirits. We were to do an interview after the rally. I was in the buffer, so the buffer zone is the area where it's like this narrow area that's right along where the president stands. And as I was and with other photographers, I heard something coming out sort of from the left-hand side, and you saw the president go down, and immediately what I could hear him say was, "Let me get my shoes." He got right back up. I could see him raise his fist, and then the Secret Service and military, law enforcement sort of surrounded him. It wasn't to hold him up, but it was to protect him because no one knew where the shooter was at that point. To walk him off of the stage and into his motorcade.
Yeah, and Selena, we're hearing it. You're there in person. We're hearing it, rewatching this tape over and over again. What did it sound like to you? We've had reports of a puff of smoke or puffs of smoke. Could you see anything about a person? You mentioned the direction where this was coming from. Any of those details?
Well, not really, because the sun was in my eye. So I couldn't see. I could tell the direction it was coming from, but I couldn't see the person. And then the advanced man laid on top of me and to make sure I was okay. So that's what that experience was like. But as a gunner, I know what that sound is like, so I knew immediately it was a gun.
Okay, so for your assessment, there being on the ground, it wasn't a firework or something like that. In your hearing of it, it did sound like a firearm.
Oh, yes, definitely. No doubt about it.
Okay, well, we know that they have tried to clear folks from there. There's obviously a crime scene investigation that's going on there. Selena, we are glad you're safe. Please stay with us. I want to check back in with Britt Hume as we're learning a little bit more. Britt, we've now got statements from the Secret Service and also from the Trump campaign that the former president is safe. That is excellent news. That is the best possible news. It doesn't take away from the shock and the distress of whatever was attempted there. You heard Selena Zito. She is now confident, as a gun owner herself and somebody who was an eyewitness, that this was a firearm.
I don't think there's been much doubt about that, Shannon. It's completely consistent with the video that we've seen, particularly with that remarkable shot we saw where the president flinched and raised his hand to the right side of his head to his ear. And that's consistent with the video we've seen of the blood streaming from that area of his ear and face. I think we can now trust the statements that are being made to say that he's okay. All the video evidence we can see, including this picture that was on the screen just moments ago of him raising his fist and being carried away by the Secret Service group, confirms that. So I think this looks like something that could have been much worse than it is at the moment. Than it's turned out to be, and we can all be very grateful for that indeed, and very grateful indeed as well for the Secret Service. They don't mess around, as you could see. The president was trying to, stand up, raise his fist, signal to the crowd that he was okay, and they were completely preoccupied with the job of getting him off that stage and into the motor vehicle that took him away.
Exactly. And we are now getting a reaction. We know that President Biden has been briefed. We're seeing statements from a number of people across the political spectrum. We just have one now from Governor Kathy Hochul out of New York, a Democrat, clearly, she says any violence against a fellow American is disgusting and unacceptable. We must express political disagreements peacefully, civilly, and respectfully. I am praying for the safety and health of former President Trump and all those who are attending this event in Pennsylvania. And Britt, we talked about, like, maybe does this actually take the temperature down because people realize just how overheated things have gotten?
Well, it's certainly something to hope for, Shannon. We're in the heat of a intensely competitive presidential campaign in which, we've learned things that we hope we wouldn't ever find out about our current president. We've now seen an attempt on the life of our past president and possible future presidents. So these are certainly perilous times in our nation's history. And these pictures we see now of the president, his face covered in part with blood, are going to live with us for a long time.
Certainly are. We're now hearing also from the top Democrat over on the House side, Hakeem Jeffries, saying, my thoughts and prayers are with former President Trump. I am thankful for the decisive law enforcement response. America is a democracy. Political violence of any kind is never acceptable. I want to bring in former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker. Nicole, you've had a chance to see this as this plays out. You and your fellow brothers and sisters in uniform who do this by choice and protect folks and jump into the line of fire. Your reaction to what you've seen and what we know so far?
Well, first of all, my due respect goes out to the United States Secret Service. They are the heroes today. Secret Service, that is their job. They put their lives on the line. You saw how they rallied around President Trump immediately in the aftermath, and they were willing to take a bullet for him. And that is what Secret Service agents do. And, we haven't had an attempted assassination of a president in a very long time. But I hate to say this, Shannon, I am not shocked by this. I am not. Trump derangement syndrome is real. People hate this man, and they will do anything that they have to take him out. And that is a terrifying statement to make in our nation right now, but it is a fact. With the counter-assault team, the Secret Service has a counter-assault team, and it's usually about 4 to 6 agents.
Okay, Nicole, it sounds like we are losing you, but let's reestablish connection and then we will get back to you, Nicole. But for those of you who have not seen, we want to replay for you what happened moments ago.
Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Moving his hair. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready? Down. Down. Are we good? Shooters down. Shooters down. Are we good to move? Shooters down. We're good to move. We're clear. We're clear. Let's move. We're clear.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. My shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
That incident, as we are learning more, we are told President Trump, defiant and on his feet as he was leaving, is fine. That's according to his campaign. That's according to the Secret Service as well. That is what played out at Butler, Pennsylvania, as President Trump had just begun a rally there to be his last before coming here to Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. I want to toss it now to my colleague, Jason Chaffetz, who picks up our coverage from here as we all still try to digest, Jason, and learn more about what happened this afternoon.
Yeah, nobody wants to see this, but when things happen, you got the Secret Service who jumped in there, put their lives on the line. That's what these men and women do. The president was defiant to get up there and pump his fist and say, fight. I think that's what he's saying. He's worried about getting his shoes. Look, the Secret Service, of which I've studied quite deeply, they have all these protocols in place. They're going to have multiple locations on where to take the president. They are going to get some criticism and questions about how anybody could get that close, if indeed it was a firearm that was there. But once that comes into action, the Secret Service will tighten its perimeter around the other protectees, the Trump children. You don't know how wide this might be. Is it just a lone person? Is it a couple of different people? Don't know if the reports about other people being injured there are true or not.
Are you leaving?
And that will be interesting to see if how that plays out. But the president there with the flag in the background, blood coming from his face, standing defiantly, I think will be perhaps the most defining moment of this presidential election year. They tried to incarcerate him. They've now had an assassination attempt on the president. And the temperature in this country, we all need to take a deep breath. But at the same time, you know what? This country, we have got to make sure that we can have free, fair elections.
To our country,
and
probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's
Okay, you good?
So you hear what the president's saying there, and what he's doing, and the way he reacts to that gunshot. Now we don't have a full confirmation that it is an actual gunshot, but that's what people on the ground are saying. I'm fairly familiar with firearms. At least that's what it sounds like. But until somebody definitively from the Secret Service or local law enforcement says that, you don't know. You also have local law enforcement. Local law enforcement is going to be there. You're going to have tactical teams. You're going to have SWAT teams. You're going to potentially have National Guardsmen there that are there to support the effort. When you have such a large, massive crowd, you have law enforcement of all sorts that is there. So, the initial reaction from the Secret Service looks to be pretty amazing, to jump in front and cover up the president, get him into that motorcade, and get him to there are going to be multiple different hospitals or extraction points for the president. And the Secret Service, that's what they're doing. That's what they're paid to do. But it's more than that. They've got to have guts to get it done. And when the president stood up and pumped his hand, blood coming from his ear and his fist, the guy's a fighter. You could say a lot about Donald Trump, but he is a fighter.
Jason Chaffetz, thank you for that, and stay with us. I'm Bill Hemmer, live here in Milwaukee, along with my colleague Shannon Bream. And Shannon, this is quite a moment. It is quite a moment in American history. It is quite a moment in this campaign. Butler, Pennsylvania is one of these rural communities north of Pittsburgh, about 50 miles, where the rural community in America is really the backbone of Donald Trump's strength. And even a week and a half ago, even Democrats were talking about this rally as getting great attendance, and certainly it was. Seemed to be a beautiful day with ocean blue skies above, and so many had gathered there to hear the president's message. I think the image we're watching, that low camera shot, the still camera frame, has already become somewhat iconic in American politics. You have a former president trying to do something we have only seen one other time in American history, and that is recapture a job he used to have. You have to go back to the 1890s to find another American in Grover Cleveland when he defeated Benjamin Harrison in the 1890s to win back his seat. Donald Trump has had an eye on this seat ever since he left Washington, D.C. in January of 2021. Butler, Pennsylvania is the kind of community where Donald Trump has made a political living now for really going on 8 years. These are the people who have turned red in a significant way in county after rural county across the country. These, Shannon, basically are his people. And as we watch that and listen just to the gnat sound of that rat-a-tat-tat, without drawing any conclusions as of now, it sounds like a bullet shot, certainly. It sounds like the rat-a-tat-tat that you would hear I know Lucas Tomlin said the Secret Service has not characterized it that way, so we'll be cautious in our information as we move throughout the evening. But I have to think also some of that sound you hear could very well have been the bullets fired by the Secret Service, and that's the reason why, Shannon, we got that report of a, quote, shooter down.
Yeah, and you know, as we watch that, as we listen, as we try to collect the facts, we had just a moment ago Selena Zito, who is a reporter who covers Pennsylvania. That is her territory, and Bill, the way you describe it, that is what she does, talking to the people of the heartland of Pennsylvania and covering exactly what's going on there. In fact, I think back, she was one of the few people in 2016 that was pretty confident, based on what she was seeing in Pennsylvania, that it was going to signal to the rest of the country that Donald Trump actually had a chance. She believed it to be very good to become president. She was at that rally today. She, as a gun owner herself, and she said she, in her estimation, being there as an eyewitness, immediately recognized the sounds of gunfire. Bill, I think we want to bring in former FBI Special Agent Chris Swecker to weigh in on where we are now, because clearly we know that there are threats, Chris. We know they're constantly being monitored for a number of high-profile people, certainly people that are in the midst of a presidential election. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, this is now an FBI investigation. The FBI has exclusive jurisdiction over assassination attempts or any assaults on a president. Clearly, he was assaulted. I was watching it live. He grabbed his right ear. He was bleeding from the ear, as you just showed. So, where do we go from here? This will be a scorched earth investigation. It already is. There'll be agents coming from every field office in the neighboring areas and in the neighboring states. It'll be all hands on deck. There's not much information coming out right now, but obviously someone has assaulted the president, and of course, this hasn't happened, to my knowledge, since Reagan. Well, actually,
Chris, it's Bill Hemmer, and thank you.
Attempt on President Bush.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for joining our coverage here. And we're going to try and be as patient as we can until we get more information from the authorities who are doing this investigation, and probably from the Trump team as well. And I would not be surprised if at some point, Chris, this evening, at some point, we will see some sort of video or statement from President Trump on camera. Would you be?
I would not be surprised at all, and I think it would be fairly quickly, Bill. You could see him pumping his fist when they first got him up, and as he was getting into the car, much to the dismay of the Secret Service agents. And this is a moment.
Chris, when you think about the rallies that this president has held going back to 2015, when he showed up in Alabama in August of that year, and that massive turnout was there, you knew there was something behind this movement. And you knew it was something that drew thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of people, starting at that rally in 2015 and going through now in the summer of 2024. Chris, what are your concerns when you see tens of thousands of people who have gathered in open fields, and understanding the challenge of keeping an event like that safe, not just once, but time after time after time?
Yeah, Bill, as good as the Secret Service are at what they do, and they are all about planning, reacting, they're good at reacting, but they don't want to be in a situation where someone has close enough access to do harm to our president. So, that's their primary job. And they will tell you they've never fired their gun in defense of a presidential candidate or a president because of how well they plan and how well they use intelligence, which comes from everywhere. But these rallies, these Trump rallies, are a security nightmare. It is nearly impossible if someone is intent on injuring the president, to prevent someone from getting access. And they try to put up concentric, different levels of perimeter access. People, but you can look at these rallies, and it looks like everybody gets in. And we have a presidential candidate that wants everybody to get in and wants them to have access, and that raises the risk.
Chris, thank you for your time. We want to go to an eyewitness now who was there at the rally, Shannon.
Yeah, we've got Pennsylvania Senate candidate David McCormick. He knows what it's like to be in the middle of a heated campaign. But David, I understand you were there What more can you tell us from your vantage point? And do you know if anybody else was potentially injured?
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm still at the rally. It's all very chaotic, but I was in the front row, and President Trump had just announced me and had suggested I come up and invited me to come up on the stage, and then he said no, he'll have him come up in a minute or two, and then there were a number of shots, and the crowd just sort of, went to the ground, and the Secret Service came and very quickly tackled the president. But there were 7 or 8 shots, and it was hard to tell whether they came from one direction or from 2 different weapons. It wasn't clear. At least I couldn't tell. And then sadly, someone behind me up in the bleachers was definitely wounded. And there was a lot of blood, and, the police came in and helped carry that person out of the stand so they could get the care they needed. I'm not sure if others were injured or not. It was all, as you might imagine, very chaotic. But it was a very scary moment, obviously, because our president and innocent bystanders were under siege.
Yeah, sir, can you tell us how many people had gathered there today? It looked like quite the turnout. And also, can you just take us through what you saw from your perspective? Did it come from your left side or your right side, or where was it in relation to where you were located?
Yeah, I don't, it was an enormous crowd. I had asked a number of law enforcement officers, and they had said something around 15,000. So I don't know if that's an official number, but it was certainly huge. And it just kept coming and coming. It was building throughout the day. It's hard to tell, but at least some of the shots, I was sitting to President Trump's right as he was facing the crowd, and I was in the front row. It felt like some of the shots came from his left side, which would make sense because someone behind me was hit. So it felt like at least some came from that side of the crowd. And as I said, I couldn't tell whether it was one gun or 2, but there were 7 or 8 shots, just one right after another.
Well, and Dave, you're an Iraq War vet. You have served us in uniform voluntarily like these law enforcement folks out there today. So it is unmistakable to you that these were gunshots. This was a firearm.
Yeah, it definitely seemed to be the case. I'm no expert on this, but it sounded like a small caliber weapon of some sort. Initially, I thought it might be fireworks or something, but then the succession of the shot, I think it was clearly a weapon, a firearm. And as I said, I couldn't tell whether it was 1 or 2, but clearly this was, from my vantage point, as someone who was there, it seemed very much an attack directed at the president, and a very scary moment.
Sir, can you tell us again about the person you saw who was injured or wounded? Again, man or woman, and what sort of condition did you notice they were in?
It was hard to tell. A number of people sitting around this person. It looked like a man. It was a large person. A number of people sitting around it started to administer first aid, and it looked like he had shirts wrapped around him to try to stem the bleeding. And then some police officers came in and carried him out of the stands, and all of that took a couple minutes. So I was sort of focused on that because it was to my back. Whether there were other people wounded or not, I couldn't tell. Of course, it was an enormous crowd, and the way it was set up, the president was on a podium, but there was a crowd behind him, and he was 360 around him. So once the shots happened, it became it wasn't panic. People didn't panic, but it was very chaotic, and everybody went down to the ground. Everybody was laying on the ground because we weren't sure the shooting was done.
Yeah. Sir, I'm going to ask you a question. Choose to answer it the way you like. Is Donald Trump lucky to be alive right now?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely, I think so. Again, the facts will come out, and I always am careful when you're in the middle of a crisis. You don't want to draw too many conclusions, but it felt to me like he's very lucky to be alive, and I hope others who were injured are going to survive this. It was a very scary moment.
Sir, thank you for your time. David McCormick is a Republican. He's running for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania, and he was there, front row, for that incident today. Sir, thank you again for your eyewitness account. Shannon.
Yeah, we want to check in with Lucas Tomlinson. He's with the president in Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. And Lucas, you've gotten a readout that President Biden has been briefed. Anything more from your location?
That's right. Shall I just read from that readout that a White House official just sent out that President Biden has been briefed. These are the officials. His director of the United States Secret Service, Alejandro Mayorkas, of course, the DHS chief, and Liz Sherwood Randall, assistant to the president and Homeland Security advisor. And the following members of President Biden's team participated in that briefing, Shannon. Jeff Zients, of course, the president's chief of staff, Steve Ricchetti, assistant to the president, counselor of the president, and Annie Tomasinini, which is the assistant and deputy chief of staff. President Biden was attending mass just a few blocks from here, Shannon, when that incident and the reports of shots were fired at former President Donald Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, about an hour north of Pittsburgh. The president, it did not appear he was rushed out of that service. He left at the appointed time. A member of the press pool that is assigned with the president asked him if he had been briefed on the situation or had any comment. President Biden said no. He returned to his house in Rehoboth Beach. That's where he is now. The pool is holding outside his residence. We're awaiting a statement from the president, either on paper or if the president will make remarks later tonight, Shannon.
All right, Lucas Tomlinson with the president. We'll check back with you, Lucas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. Want to bring in Nicole Parker, former FBI special agent now. And Nicole, you've been watching the coverage. Just give us your top line thought at this hour.
Top line thought, Secret Service, they are the heroes today. The Secret Service, anytime there's a former president traveling, they typically have a counter-assault team that's paired with a local SWAT team. So the counter-assault team typically consists of about 4 to 6 special agents. They travel with the former president depending on threats. We all know that President Trump has many, many threats that are probably coming at him on a daily basis. Obviously, Secret Service, they immediately shield the president or former president. And then they, the SWAT teams come in, they're working with local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and they will hold the scene. And again, like has been mentioned by other guests, the FBI will arrive on the scene and then the FBI will conduct the investigation. They'll collaborate their efforts with the Secret Service. We all know that President Trump, thank goodness, right now is known to be okay. And so that is the Secret Service's first priority. Obviously, Reagan was the last president that was shot. This is very, very tragic for our country. Regardless of where one stands on the political spectrum, taking out your anger with violence is unacceptable. And, they got him out of the scene, thank goodness, but this could have ended very, very differently. And I've heard other guests, come on and say that, and I cannot express that enough. I have a very dear friend who was shot in the head, an FBI special agent, and she is not with us any longer. So this could have, just even inches over. This could have, if it was indeed a gun, which I'm sure that we all agree and understand that it likely was shots fired, this could have ended very differently. I think it's important to look from an investigative standpoint. Who did this? Whoever did this likely has revealed themselves as a threat in the past. Okay? The Secret Service is constantly looking into people of, potential threats. I believe, again, without knowing anything, just preliminarily, this person was likely of record. Okay, there's protective intelligence teams. That's all they do. They work cases of any threats whatsoever that are directed at the current president, former president, and that is their job. So they likely,
Nicole,
yes?
Yeah. If I may, I know you're FBI, not Secret Service.
Yes.
But trying to explain to people at home, even us for that matter, as we sit here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I can tell you it's a Saturday night in Shannon, the streets are closed. It's hard to get around already, and the event is still 2 days away. That's the world in which we live now. How then, Nicole, do you keep an environment safe when you have 10, 20, 30,000 people in a field with 360-degree views all around a person you are trying to protect?
That is extremely, extremely difficult. And I have to say that President Trump is extremely brave to do these rallies because it is, we look at the shooting in Las Vegas. There was someone that was at a hotel room firing from way far off in a distance, nowhere even near where that concert occurred, if we all recall that awful mass shooting in Las Vegas. Again, this could have ended very, very differently. But, everyone's all hands on deck. And like we said,
sweep. The Secret Service goes in before, because I've worked with Secret Service. I've done events with them. They go in and they sweep the entire facility before, a former president is coming in. I guarantee that area was swept. It was looked into. Everyone had to, go through metal detectors. That's something for the FBI to look into and to investigate. But you're right. It's a very difficult task for law enforcement to do.
Yes.
But again, it speaks to how strong President Trump is. He is so determined in his message that he's willing to do these rallies. He is a warrior.
Nicole Parker, thank you, former FBI. Thank you for being with us. We'll check back in later. Shannon.
Yeah, Bill, we want to bring in our colleague, Martha McCallum. Martha, your reaction as we are getting information that the former president seems to be okay, but what a shock to the system for Americans watching this play out this afternoon.
Hello, Shannon, and what a shock indeed. This is an incredible, awful event that we are watching playing out. When you see the former president of the United States with blood around his ear, and the details of all of this, we're still really waiting to find out what happened. We all hear those initial pop, 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 and then a second round of gunfire that may have come from Secret Service. We don't know the status of where this shooter was sitting, where they were positioned, but it appeared when the president clutched his ear, it appears as if something is coming from behind him. And I looked really closely at the scene behind him. The people that you can see, at least, in the bleachers behind him, do not appear to all turn and look at one place of where this might have been coming from. So, this is video that needs to be looked at, obviously, frame by frame to figure this out. But the only good news right now is that the former president, by his own campaign's contention, is fine. And thank God he's fine. We have to hear more about these others who are wounded. Is one of these wounded the person who started this incident, as it's being called? And we have to nail down exactly what happened here. But these images that are on the screen right now, blue sky behind the former president, blood on his face, his fist in the air. This is an incredibly resilient and tough guy. He wanted to get his shoes before he went back down the stairs. This is an incredible development in what has already been several weeks of tumultuous campaign season that we are watching unfold right now. These are very, very edgy and difficult and unsettling times in America, Shannon.
Yeah, and Bill, I know you want to jump into, but I want to let you know, Martha, we have a lot of reaction from across the political spectrum, everybody denouncing this to a one. But we're hearing from former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who obviously is one of the most well-known surviving victims of one of these attacks. She says political violence is terrifying. I know. I'm holding former President Trump and all those affected by today's indefensible act of violence in my heart. Political violence is un-American and is never acceptable. Never. Martha?
Well, she knows that firsthand, and she suffers from it every day. What happened to her was horrific. And, we have a lot of talk in the country about political violence on all sides and the concerns about it, but we haven't seen something quite like this in quite a long time. You think of RFK, who was shot while he was campaigning in California, and he was killed by an assassin's bullet. It is these people who stand up to run for president of the United States. They put their safety on the line every day, and these Secret Service heroes who surround him. Think of this image of them literally body to body creating a wall around the person that they protect. And I heard you speak about this earlier, Shannon and Bill, but these guys we have an incredible team of people who protect presidents and presidential candidates in this country, and we need to be very grateful for them. And I would just stress that we're still waiting to learn the details about exactly what happened here and where this person who started this incident is right now, and that is the story of this evening. And I do expect, as I heard Bill say earlier, that we will likely hear from President Trump tonight, so we will stay tuned for that as well, guys.
Thank you, Martha. Martha McCallum joining us as our coverage continues live here in Milwaukee. And Shannon, just want to bring up, there's a lot of information out there from the Butler County, Pennsylvania DA. And he apparently, his name is Goldinger, Goldinger. And apparently he's speaking with a number of members of the press. None of this has been confirmed, so I just want to walk cautiously with it. But listening to David McCormick describe that man who was seated near him, being carried out with numerous tourniquets on his body. There were casualties. As to whether or not there were fatalities, we hope and pray that's not the case. We can't confirm that right now, but there certainly were others who were injured. How many, we can't say either. But when we look at that video, it appears, Shannon, he grabs his right ear before you hear a sound. And then after that, there was a repeated sound over and again. In addition to that, you have, in all likelihood, what would be the Secret Service returning fire, and that's why we have that quote that we have used now, shooter is down. So we'll wait for an update out of Butler, but we just want to bring you some of that now.
We're just getting something coming in from the Associated Press here. This is to the AP. They say the shooter is dead and a rally attendee was killed at the Trump event in Pennsylvania. They say the Butler County District Attorney is telling them that. That's according to the Associated Press. The shooter dead, and someone also who was attending that rally. That's the latest from there on
Gotcha.
site.
That DA's first name is Richard Goldinger. It's just coming up right now. Also another report, audience member, as you say, killed, the shooter dead, another person said to be in serious condition, and we'll wait for more information on the condition for that purpose. Katie Pavlich joins us now. She spoke to the U.S. ambassador who was also at that rally. Katie, where are you, and what have you learned for us?
Well, I had a phone call with former Ambassador Kip Tom, who was in the front row at this rally, sitting very close to Senate candidate David McCormick. And the first thing he said to me was, I never thought this would happen again. He then went into details about what he saw. He said he saw gun smoke and bullets flying from multiple directions. And that's what we've heard from a number of people tonight, given their first eyewitness testimony being there. And he also had the same opinion that the president was lucky to be alive, which of course is what Senate candidate Dave McCormick also told you guys earlier about the current situation. So I'm sure we will hear from the president. We are 2 days from the RNC convention. He has every intention of moving forward and showing up there. It's pretty incredible to watch him walk off that stage shouting, fight, fight, fight. And I look forward to hearing what he has to say about this historic moment that we are watching. We always say we have a front row seat to history. And this is a terrible day for the country and the current situation that we're in.
Katie, thank you for that. Katie Pavlich joining us from Washington, D.C., and we'll see you in Milwaukee a bit later in the week. Shannon?
Yeah, let's check in with Alexis McAdams. She was there as this happened, and I believe she's got an eyewitness or maybe more with her. Alexis, we toss to you.
Yeah, so we were able to get out of that area after they turned it into an active crime scene, Shannon and Bill, and we were able to talk with some people who heard what we heard too, those several pops as they all took cover here in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm going to take you closer here to who we're talking to. So you guys are, in shock. One, you can't leave because they've closed down the roads, and two, you're still trying to figure out exactly what happened. What did you hear when you were inside of that rally?
I heard about 7 or 8 shots. She's better at this than me. Let her do the talking.
What did you do as soon as you heard that? Did you try to get down?
No, I did not. I stood up and tried to film it, but it didn't work very good. They're the ones that hit the ground.
Okay. So walk me through, too,
I would have taken a shot for him.
What you heard. I mean, you were pretty close, or where were you?
We were right behind where the chairs were at. And we started hearing, I thought it was firecrackers. And I'm like, who would be shooting off firecrackers in here? Well, then somebody started yelling, hit the ground, hit the ground. And when I looked over, then I saw the smoke from the gunfire. So then everybody hit the ground, and he kept standing. I was like, you got to get down, Bob. You got to get down. They're going to shoot you. Because if they would have had like a machine gun, they could have taken us all out. So then we laid there for a while, and we saw different places where the gunshots were at. And then they got President Trump down, Secret Service did, and they took him out of there and got him off of the stage. And he was bleeding. And so then my son and daughter-in-law was back behind us, back behind the fence. Okay. And we was worried about them. We couldn't call them. And so we started trying to go after them then when they finally let us up. And they had been right by the fence where the other shooter was. There was one I heard in the water tower. There was one by the fence.
And still, obviously, initial reports. But what we do know, according to the AP, this is coming, Bill, from the Butler County District Attorney's Office, saying the shooter dead and a rally attendee killed. So this is all still developing out here. But to hear those numerous pops and then to have so many people in that crowd try to take cover there, people were, trying to get out of there as quickly as they could. To see the former president down on the ground, to come back up, to see some blood possibly on his ear, but then leave with a fist pump. People were pretty emotional. You think about all this, right? When you go into these events, as you both have before, you go through that Secret Service check. They go through your bags. They wand people down. But it's always a concern when you're going to a big rally like this. And people were excited to be out here. They were here for hours just trying to get a glimpse of the former president. That includes you as well. So just tell me a little bit about what you heard.
Just heard pop, pop, pop. Right away you think, well, maybe firecrackers, and you're kind of stunned. And then fire, and then like return fire, and then get down. So we got down and we huddled and we just started praying. The lady in front of me that laid on top of me, she was crying. I said, it's going to be okay, honey. We just prayed, and then after a little while we could see Trump get up, and he gave the, like, I'm okay. And so then we got up. Like, as a true leader, he was like leading us.
You could hear him yell to the few of the Secret Service members saying, let me get my shoes. I mean, he wanted to walk away.
There he is leading us like it's okay. You know what I mean? I mean, that gives you goosebumps.
Were you afraid for your safety?
After when I heard the get down, then I realized, yeah, for sure it was for sure shots. But when we started to pray, I felt protected, and I just want to give God all the glory. God gets all the glory that Trump was protected and people were protected. I'm sorry about a fatality. I'm sorry. I pray God comforts those people. We've been praying the whole time since it happened for anybody involved.
Did you see any blood on the former president when he got back up?
I talked to ABC News, and they just said that there was. ABC News said there was someone in his ear, but they said that could have been from Secrets. That may not have been his blood, and it may have been from Secret Service getting him down.
Okay, thank you for talking to us. I'm glad that you're okay. Thank you. So we're just going to walk you a little bit over here, just to kind of see what the scene is going on here. This is where everybody was lining up, okay, before they went in. We're talking like 8 hours in the hot sun out here in Butler County, where these people wanted to catch a glimpse of the president. They were out here buying hats and doing everything they could to kind of get ready for the day. He was up there only for a few minutes, the former president, before this shooting happened. We were in the media area, and when we heard those pops, you kind of look around, you try to get your bearings and figure out what's going on. Then you saw the Secret Service really swoop in there and get into action quickly. The former president down on the ground behind that podium. We were talking with some law enforcement out here as well when they were trying to figure out what was happening. They were trying to survey, Bill, where these possible shots were coming from. But one person we talked to who was out here on the ground with law enforcement said it sounded like there was a silencer, and that's why people were wondering really what it was, because you couldn't hear it. It was like muffled. And so that's why they moved in so quickly and tried to do everything that they could to make sure the president was okay.
All right, Alexis McAdams on the scene.
Okay, so just stay with us if you want. Do you want to hear from anybody else?
Sure, Alexis, if you are ready to go.
If you want to. I know you guys are in rolling coverage. We just might as well. We're trying to grab as many people as they're walking out.
Yes,
but you were
absolutely.
Inside, and just kind of tell me what you heard.
He tells it better than I do.
Okay, what happened?
Well, we were basically standing. There was a Trump campaign people at the tent right there on the corner, and we kind of went all together towards where he was speaking, as close as you could get. And one of the kids was really tall, so my wife's like, "Hey, can you take this, and get me a picture of him real close?" And next thing you know, as soon as he pointed the camera, all hell broke loose.
Walk me through how many shots or pops, rather, you heard and what you were thinking. I mean, were you afraid for your safety? You're here with your family?
No, I just wanted everybody to be calm and don't panic, because they're not aiming for us. You know what I mean? So.
Do you ever think? I mean, you came to this big rally. I think you think about
birthday,
well,
my wedding anniversary.
Okay.
And it just seems odd.
Yeah, well, to know, though, that there's that many people waiting here, and then they did check everybody. I mean, did you think the service, the Secret Service, did a good job checking people? Or was there anything that did you bring in bags or anything?
I think it was as good as you could expect. I mean, I was expecting a lot of people here, and that's what we got today, so.
What would you say to the former president if you could talk to him?
We love you. and we'll back you. We're backing you.
Were you worried that he was badly injured when you saw him hit the ground?
At first, I didn't see him hit the ground. I just was mainly trying to get people not to panic and overrun each other. I mean, in a situation like that, everybody just wanted to scatter.
Did you get out pretty quickly? I mean, there were a lot of people that were pushed into that.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about getting out quickly. I just wanted to, the people around me to be safe. I mean, that's all you can hope for. And
knowing how much is going on in the world, and when it comes to politics, I mean, it's like you can't even, people get mad at their neighbors, they get mad, they lose friends over politics. Did you ever worry about kind of coming to these rallies and being unsafe?
This is my first rally, so, I mean, what an experience before everything happened. But, I mean, people are going to do what people do, man.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's what we're hearing out here. Thanks for talking to us. We'll send it back to you.
Alexis,
Wow.
thank you very much.
Really great stuff, Alexis. Thank you. We'll get back to you in a moment here. There was a lot of reaction coming in, Shannon. We just want to rifle through a little bit of what we're picking out. Robert Kennedy Jr., who's running his own campaign for the White House in the summer of 2024, sent out this on X a moment ago. Remember, this is a young man at the time when his own father was shot and killed in Los Angeles in 1968. He said, "Now is the time for every American who loves our country to step back from the division, renounce all violence, and unite in prayer for President Trump and his family." In addition, former President George Bush, 43, he said, "We're grateful that President Trump is safe following the cowardly attack on his life." Here's another one from Team Trump, and Stephen Chung, who is in all likelihood traveling with the president, was with him there today in Butler, Pennsylvania. Quote, he says on X, "President Trump thanks law enforcement and first responders for their quick action during this heinous act. He is fine and is being checked out at a local medical facility. More details will follow." We'll try and get more reaction as we move through the evening here. There is, Shannon, as we go, there's a lot of information flying out there, and a lot of it's on social media, and we're trying to parse what we think we can report now and what we can't. There is a video out there that shows an individual lying on a rooftop and not moving. The suggestion is that could have been the gunman. We have no confirmation of that. But if that was from a certain distance away, a person with a firearm, with a long-range rifle, would have been able to reach that stage fairly easily from that location. So we'll wait for more information from authorities, and we'll be patient as we go.
Yeah, we will. And we do know from local authorities there on the ground are telling the Associated Press that the shooter is down, that another attendee was killed. There are others, at least one other, we believe, in critical condition. We're also hearing from the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who has walked through this political violence with her own family, her own husband attacked in their home out in California. She says, as one whose family has been the victim of political violence, I know firsthand that political violence of any kind has no place in our society. I thank God that former President Trump is safe. As we learn more details about this horrifying incident, let us all pray. And it goes on from there for those who are protectors, for those who are still first responders who are now in the middle of this investigation. But again, across the political spectrum, we're hearing with a uniform voice Bill denouncing what has happened today. And as we learn a little bit more about it, we do know the former president is doing just fine.
Okay, we're going to hear from a lot of people as we go throughout the evening. We're just at the very beginning of what will be a significant American story. Paul Morrill joins us, former NYPD inspector. And Paul, welcome to our coverage. Your observations based on your own experience.
Well, first of all, if the reporting is accurate and we do have a victim that has succumbed to his or her wounds, that's just so tragic here. It looked for a while there that the only casualty would be that apparently minor wound to Donald Trump. Now, if the incident is indeed over, starts the backwards scrub, right? You got to figure out how this person was able to do what he or she did. If they did it from inside the perimeter, how that happened. We are getting some reporting, Bill, as you've mentioned, that it looks like it came from outside, might have involved a long gun. So they're going to look at, okay, were those situations secured and why not? But then there's going to be a deeper scrub and a simultaneous investigation here. And that is, did this person leave a footprint? And I would guard against looking on social media and taking viral reporting as accurate. We don't know yet. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to be very circumspect with this stuff. But that said, very often people who do this kind of thing do leave a pretty good footprint. And we need an investigation into how that happened. And let me go even further. That investigation needs to be transparent. We can't have the kind of stuff where we have a transcript that Merrick Garland doesn't want to, or rather a tape that Merrick Garland doesn't want to release. You know, we've been saying on this network that a lot of these groups, Antifa and some of the groups that have been occupying the campuses, et cetera, who appear to be quite radical, we need federal investigations, RICOs and other kind of collusive investigations to take them out and figure out why they're doing, how they're funded, et cetera. And we've got none of that. And, you know, I don't want to start placing blame now. We don't have all the facts. But what I would say is that whatever's done in response to this by the federal authorities, and this will be a federal investigation, that has to be transparent because, you know, there's enough distrust on both sides. And we need to know what went on with this thing and what's going to be going on going forward.
Indeed. Paul, thank you. Stand by. We'll get more momentarily. But Shannon, right now, we go back to someone who was there.
We do. John David Longo is the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Mayor, we understand you were at the rally. Thank you for joining us. What can you tell us from being there on the scene? Mayor, are you there?
Wow, that's a shame. Okay, so
we'll get back to him.
We had his shot and we lost it, and we'll do our best to try and make a connection with him yet again. Paul, one of the things that we were talking about earlier was how you are able to corral 10, 20, 30,000 people into an area and keep it safe. Paul, hold that thought. The mayor is back now. John David Longo, if you can hear us, you were there. Please relay your experience as you saw it. Okay, we are 0 for 2 on our attempts at that. Paul, how do you keep a place like this secure when you think about rallies that go back 8 years, Paul? 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's very, very difficult. You know, Alexis was talking about the fact that they did do wanding, which is generally very helpful and has a prophylactic effect. People see that, and so they say, you know what, I can't come in with anything if they ever had a desire to. But the truth of the matter is that when you have an open air situation where you have so many people in place, et cetera, it is hopeful. All right. And there are weapons these days that can even defeat wanding. I'm not telling the audience anything they don't know. The response now is going to be very telling. I can tell you that here in New York City, the NYPD is deploying heavy units in and around Trump Tower to make sure there isn't some copycat stuff. And you have to think of maybe even response stuff. You know, are people on the other side going to feel vengeful? So we have to dial it back. Everybody has to be cool-headed, and we have to find out exactly what happened here. But, you know, before we start placing blame, et cetera, you have to say to yourself, we need to know with clarity, because that's how the conspiracy theories start. And we've had enough of those.
Mm-hmm. Paul, thank you. Got a statement now from the former president, Barack Obama. It reads this way: there is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump was not seriously hurt, and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. End quote. Shannon.
Let's go check in with Alexis McAdams again. She's been there on the ground as all of this occurred and has talked to a number of witnesses and people who I'm sure, Alexis, are still in a bit of a state of shock.
Yeah, and that includes who we're talking to right now, Blake, who you were inside. We actually talked with him, Shannon, earlier when you were doing special coverage. You were up on the stage, we grabbed you up, and then we all got pushed out by Secret Service. But walk me through what happened. You were really close. You're a delegate for former President Trump, so you were pretty close to that stage. What'd you hear?
Well, I was listening to him. He was talking. I think he had the slide up on the big screen about how immigration has increased under Biden. And as I was watching him, I heard what I thought were just a noise. I was hoping it was a joke. I didn't know if it was fireworks or what. It seemed to be coming from my left. So I turned to my left, and I'm just going to turn this off here. All right. No, let's let it go. Sorry. Turned to my left when I heard the sound and didn't see anything. When I looked back towards the president, the Secret Service was actively tackling him to the ground. And at that point, I began to hear some other sounds, and I said, okay, this is gunfire. And I think then I did duck down. I didn't dive on the ground, but I did duck down, and then it seemed like it stopped. And then I got up and was just trying to pay attention to what had happened to the president.
When he came back up before he gave that fist pump and then was taken off the stage, it looked like he possibly had some blood, as you mentioned too before, right on his ear. I mean, what did you exactly see, and how much blood did you see?
Not a lot. I mean, kind of like where maybe you cut your head. And it did not seem to be coming from his ear. It seemed to be coming from above his ear. But it could have been he could have been tackled in such a way that he cut himself. It could be Secret Service agents' blood on their hands that got transferred to him. I didn't know what it was, but it didn't appear to be overly serious when taken in combination with his defiant attitude and his fist pump. I think he wanted to let us know he was all right.
How shocked were you? I mean, you're getting ready to go to the RNC. I mean, everyone's mind was on the excitement at that rally, and then you hear these pops, and it's what a lot of people is their biggest fear when they come to a big event like this.
Well, I can't say it's one of mine. I as separated as we are politically in this country, I am not one who thinks that we're on the verge of hostilities. I didn't think that I would ever see anything like this happen. And even like my initial reaction was, it's a joke, it's a prank. And it was only when I saw the actions being taken by the Secret Service that it became apparent that it wasn't.
They were able to move in pretty quickly. You could see the snipers up on the roof. At this point, we're hearing that the possible, suspect or person was killed, and then a person also that was at the rally was killed.
I'm sorry about one. I'm not sorry about the other. Tremendous wake-up call for our country. This can't be condoned. It can't be tolerated. And, we have a very open society. We have a very open political discourse. It should never include violence. Never. Any groups that espouse violence, there should be no tolerance for it.
Last thing, when people were moving out before the Secret Service cleared us out too, did you talk to anybody, and kind of what are people out here saying? Are they nervous? Are they scared?
Very many people were upset. The whole gamut of emotions, from being upset to prayer to concern to anger to shock. I think I saw it all.
Are you going to the RNC still?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I fully expect to see President Trump on the stage on Thursday accepting the nomination.
Okay, thank you for talking to us. I'm glad you're okay. So that's what we're hearing out here on the ground, but definitely many people are still shaken up, as you can expect, trying to figure out what happened. And we also have the mayor,
Alexis,
Bill,
thank you.
if you guys want me to talk with him right now. The mayor, I know you guys were trying to get him earlier.
Go for it.
Yeah,
I think they were talking to you on the phone.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from him.
All right, so tell me, you were up on the stage, you were near the former president. What happened?
I was actually with the president about 15, 20 minutes before that awful thing occurred. And my wife and I and my family were seated front row, just left of stage. And obviously a complete 180. We all came in here with smiles and hope for the future. And what's happened today, I'm speechless over. All I can think of right now is that this is representative of the vitriol and the hate that a lot of people in the United States seem to have for people with conservative ideals and principles behind them. And I'm just sorry that it's come to that. And I'm sorry that it's come to that here in Butler County.
Where were you standing when the former president ended up hitting the ground there, right behind that podium?
Was Donald's there?
I was standing right on the barrier to the left of the stage, front row. And at first I heard that first crack. I started to look around. I thought it couldn't possibly have been around. I thought for sure it might have been a firecracker. But I looked at my wife, who's a state police officer. I pushed her down to the ground. On the second one, it sounded to me like it might have been a 22 round or something similar to it. I asked her if she thought it sounded like a 22. She said yes. We just yelled for everybody to get down on the ground and to stay down to allow the Secret Service and law enforcement to do what it is they had to do. We weren't really quite sure what was happening. And unfortunately, just a few feet behind me, there was an unfortunate individual who lost his life to this maniac.
Did you see the person who was shot?
I did. I did see some of that. Of course, I didn't see the shot itself. But I did.
So you turn around, so you push your wife down, you look around for your family, you take cover yourself, you see the president get back up, give that fist pump, you turn around and you see somebody in the crowd had been shot.
They were shot, and they were on the bleachers, and it was just a really sad thing to witness. And unfortunately, I understand that individual lost their life.
Was it a man? Was it a woman? What did you see?
From what I saw, was that there was a gentleman there who was shot, and very sad just to witness that. I can't think or imagine what his friends and family must be feeling right now, thinking he was coming here to come and enjoy a day with fellow Republicans, and would end up losing his life. And my thoughts and my prayers go out to his family.
You know all the local officials. I mean, this was federal, state, local. We're all out here responding to this, and they responded quick. Have you heard from any of your partners in the law enforcement area here in Butler County, and what are they saying?
I've heard from a couple individuals, but I just want to say, unfortunately this time I don't want to comment on anything I might have heard, because I don't want anything to be shared that might make it more difficult for law enforcement professionals to get to the bottom of it, and I certainly don't want to make their job any harder. So, at this time I'm going to say that I know everything that you know, ma'am, and we'll keep it at that.
But you are hearing that it was definitely gunshots that were fired.
That's what I'm hearing, and from my own experience, and I did spend some time in the Marine Corps. My wife is a police officer. My father-in-law is a retired police officer. My brother-in-law is a police officer. We know the sound of gunfire when we see it, and from what I witnessed and the blood on the ground, it seems that certainly is the case, and it's just a disgusting thing to have had to happen today.
This was a huge day for you. It was the mayor of a tiny area here to have a big rally in Butler County. You were excited to have the former president out here. Did you get to talk to him much?
I did. I got to spend a few minutes with him, and I was elated just to have been able to talk with him, my wife and I, again, just 15, 20 minutes before the shots were fired, and we had a pleasant conversation, and he was kind enough to even say that I watched you and you did a good job, and I thought, wow, how great that was, that feeling. And then, of course, the feeling now is indescribable, as I'm feeling something completely opposite from what it was that we felt in that tent with him, and the smile that was on his face turned to chaos and despair. It certainly did.
And then stay with us just for a second. Bill, Shannon, I don't know if you have any specific questions you want us to ask the mayor, since you guys were trying to call him too.
Yeah, the only thing, Alexis, that we're trying to clarify, if he can, did he see that on stage or in another area of that rally?
Did you see the shooting happen when you saw the shooting happen, and you saw the person who was shot? Well, how close were they to the stage? And do you think that these shots were fired inside of the rally or outside of the rally?
I was trying to figure that out myself, ma'am. What I can tell you is that I was seated in the front row, stage left, so to the right of the president, as near to the stage as you could be. The individual who was shot was in the bleachers about 15, 20 feet behind me. So again, I was scanning the crowd and trying to figure out if shots were coming from within or without. I'm inclined to believe that it was from outside, but I don't want you to hold me to that, of course, because there was just so much going on right there.
Still developing. That area where the motorcade pulled up behind, and you were in that area when you were greeting the former president, but it looked like there was some space, right? It's like a neighborhood surrounding this. So we saw what it looked like inside the rally. We saw the stage, we saw the bleachers, we saw the thousands of people. But talk to me about kind of what's outside, since you know the area. I mean, is it a neighborhood, and could people have driven up pretty close?
There are single family homes in this area, so yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, there are major arteries for traffic that come through here. It's not ridiculous to think that somebody who was a good shot could set up outside of this venue, and with the right conditions be able to reach out and touch somebody in a bad way. Whoever this individual was or individuals were, I'm not really quite sure, because I haven't heard anything as far as what exactly had happened, but all I know is yes, I mean, it's certainly possible, but I just never would have thought that it would be possible here in our home. Butler County is very much so Trump country. We adore the president. He was very good to us during his tenure in office, and I never would have imagined that him coming here to Butler County would have meant that he would have had to experience this. And I'm glad that the president's safe. I heard that he's doing okay now. But again, I just want to go back to that individual who lost their life today. that individual came here looking for hope and inspiration in this upcoming cycle, and unfortunately is going to be with us. So I just hope the world sees what happened here today and is inspired to action. And when I say into action, I mean to prayer, to vote, of course, to bring God back into our society here, because this is the act of a godless society that we saw today.
Thank you for talking to us, Mayor. I'm glad that you're okay. Glad your family's okay. Unfortunately, as you just heard, one person who was at that rally confirmed dead, according to local officials. We're still trying to figure out exactly what all played out here.
All right, Alexis, thank you so much for all that on-the-ground coverage and with the witnesses there. Bill, and you and I, as I remember years ago, were doing the morning show the morning that Congressman Steve Scalise was shot. And that horrific situation and what happened there on that ball field as they were practicing. He's got a post now on X saying, praying for President Donald Trump, there is never any place for political violence, and he would know it better than anyone would. And thank God he's had a full recovery. It seems like President Trump is in a much different situation, by all accounts doing fine, defiantly raising his fist and wanting to let that crowd know he was just fine as he was leaving, as we continue to get reaction pouring in, Bill.
So before that Butler, Pennsylvania rally was underway, the president left his home in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Our own Harris Faulkner was with him, and Harris sent this message to us and a couple pictures that I'm in West Palm. Spent the day at Mar-a-Lago with President Trump. Was with him minutes before he left for PA. He was so excited to see the voters in Butler, PA. He joked and told me our extended interview, quote, will be a ratings grabber. Please play it for the people, Harris, end quote. Harris concludes by saying, pray for our nation's 45th president of the United States. More reaction to Gabby Giffords was a Democratic congresswoman from Arizona. She went home for a Saturday morning appearance in Tucson, Arizona, when she was shot in the face. And Gabby Giffords survived. She was always one of these members of Congress who was always willing to talk about the issues and come on the air and debate them. And she always did it with a smile. And then later with the now Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, her statement is this: political violence is terrifying. I know. I'm holding former President Trump and all those affected by today's indefensible act of violence in my heart. Political violence is un-American and is never acceptable. Never. Shannon.
So we're told now, of course, this is a federal investigation, that the U.S. Secret Service is handling this, and all of our questions about what happened there today go to them. I believe Congressman Byron Donalds, a Republican out of Florida, is with us. Congressman, your thoughts at this moment we have reached in our political climate, so inflamed, and what appears to be an attempt to take out a former president?
My first thoughts are, relieved and grateful that President Trump is okay. My second thoughts are that this violence in our politics has got to end. I mean, I know that we talk about these issues in inflamed tones, but there's no excuse for violence. Trying to assassinate a president, former president, elected official. There's no place for that whatsoever. And I know the Secret Service is going to do everything they can to continue to protect President Trump. I think my third thought is Americans need to get out and vote. There's only one way to really deal with this, and that's to get out, get yourself to the polls. Don't worry about news reports or anything like that. Get to the polls. And it's in the hands of the American people to have the country that they want going forward. And that's a country where we embrace tolerance. We're not just have one thought, one mind, one way of looking at our issues or one way of looking at the world. That you get out and vote, you make your voices heard, and that we are tolerant of all voices, even when we don't agree with them.
Sir, well stated. Thank you, Byron Donalds, a Republican congressman from Florida. If we have our colleague Martha McCallum, I would like to try and bring her back in.
Hi, Bill.
Martha, we've been waiting to hear from President Biden. What do you have on that front now?
So President Biden has just put out a statement saying that he is praying for the family, that he is praying for President Trump, and that political violence is never acceptable. He's going to make a statement. We're just hearing about this just a few seconds ago. He will deliver a statement to the nation after the apparent assassination attempt on former President Trump. So it took a while. He said he was being briefed by Secret Service on getting as much information as he can on this situation, but now we are told that he will deliver. This is AP reporting remarks to the nation after the apparent assassination attempt on former President Trump. And the more we are seeing, Bill, about and hearing reports about, and we don't have this confirmed, although there are images, as you mentioned earlier, about a man who was on a roof. There's a bystander who speaks to someone at the BBC in great detail about what he saw and that they alerted police, according to him. So we have to obviously be very careful with all of this, but there is at least one person who has lost their life, and the former president of the United States is extraordinarily lucky to have survived what is looking like an attempt on his life. And, you know, it is just an extraordinary series of events that we're seeing unfold here, but it is absolutely shocking. But, you know, we were talking before about the people in the stands, and if it came from further away, if it came from a building top back there, it explains why everyone continued to look forward, and we think that someone on the upper left-hand side of those stands went down and was shot, according to these, you know, details that we all have to confirm. But that's why you didn't see people, you know, sort of darting in any direction to tackle anyone, if indeed the person who did this was over on that roof. So a lot of information out there, as you said, Bill. We want to be very cautious about this, but it is becoming increasingly likely that the president was just extraordinarily lucky to be alive, and we hear that he is fine, and we're waiting for more from him. But President Biden will be speaking from Delaware, we're told, fairly shortly.
Yeah, thank you, Martha, for that. We'll wait for that. Lucas Tomlinson's in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Tells us Biden will speak soon. Behind me at the police station, so we will await that. Alexis McAdams is doing terrific work. She's our reporter on the scene in Butler, Pennsylvania. And, she was dispatched for this assignment, and this assignment was expected to be a pump-up rally before the Republican convention gets underway in 48 hours from now here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Alexis, you have a very different story in your hands right now. Hello again.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, we had no idea that this was obviously going to take place. We were trying to figure out what those pops were. And when we were up on that media stage, you know, I was standing there watching the former president talk about immigration, and he was actually referencing a big graph and saying, like, look how many things have changed under the Biden administration, and this is why I'm a good choice. And then all of a sudden, you heard all these pops, which now we are hearing from law enforcement sources were possible gunshots. So we're trying to talk with people who were inside of that rally, Bill. I'm just going to check in with people as we develop here live with this coverage. So you were inside. What exactly did you hear, and what did you see?
So we heard something that sounded like a firecracker, and we turned around, and there was people behind us, and it was two of our guys, I think, in camo uniform shooting back. And then we seen a guy inside the crowd here, probably 15 away from us, get shot. They said there was a casualty, and he was dead, and somebody else got shot. And then apparently our guys were shooting on top of the building, and everybody started cheering once they got the shooter. You could see him up on top of the building there.
Okay. So when this was all happening, because now when you play it back, you can, you know, kind of figure it out and make it more succinct. But when this was happening, did you know where these possible shots were coming from?
I mean, I could see the guys literally the shots that we heard at the time, we thought it was somebody. We turned around, we seen smoke literally coming out of the barrel. The guys behind us, at the time, we thought they were coming at us, but it happened to be our guys shooting back at him. So everybody was freaking out, thinking we were going to get shot by the people right behind us, but they were actually protecting us, shooting the shooter.
And where was the shooter, according to what you're seeing and when you were there?
We were here, and our shooters were up to our left, probably, I don't know, 40 feet away or so, up on top of that building or whatever it was.
Yeah, but the possible shooter, whoever possibly fired.
There was somebody in the crowd that got shot. I don't know if he had whatever. Somebody said he had a pistol. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But somebody in the crowd got shot from our guys or somebody, I don't know, and he... whatever.
So it's a confusing situation. But when you heard those pops, did they sound like they were coming from in the crowd, outside of the crowd, outside of that fence near the retention pond?
It literally sounded like it was 20 feet behind us, right outside the fence, right there. I mean, it was literally 10 feet behind us. The guys that were our guys were 15 feet behind us. We literally watched them shoot back. I mean, they were right there.
How many shots did it look like the law enforcement fired at a possible shooter?
2 to 4. I mean, there was at least two different sets of shots. You could hear 2 different guns. There was 4 shots from at least one and 2 shots from another gun that you could tell. There was 2 different guns that I could hear. I don't know which was which. It was hard to tell which was which.
Okay.
All you could see was smoke, and you could hear the bullets, and then you seen people, and somebody got shot, and you could actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Glad you're okay. But that's what we're hearing. At least one person shot in that crowd has died, according to the Butler County District Attorney. Bill, we'll keep you posted on what else we hear.
All right. Thanks, Alexis McAdams. Back with you momentarily, Shannon.
All right, we're going to bring in Congressman Dan Muser out of Pennsylvania. Congressman, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us?
Hi, Shannon. Hey, much of what you heard was quite accurate. The president was 6 minutes into his speech, 7 minutes. Next thing you know, we heard gunfire. Some people speculated. Somebody said there's firecrackers behind us. It sounded like it was very close. I was sitting in the front row to the right of the president with Dave McCormick, Senate candidate, as well as Mike Kelly, one of my colleagues. And then we saw the president seeming grab, and he dropped he hit the deck. He knew he was being fired upon, and that's pretty much when everyone began. And then Secret Service did its job. Secret Service was up there fast, and then they got on top of the. They returned fire on the shooter pretty fast. I mean, it sounded like it was real close to us. And I'll also add the one fatality that I believe is a fatality. I don't want to overstate things. Was no more than 20 feet behind us. So certainly our prayers and are certainly with that individual.
Yes, sir. In which direction was the Secret Service firing?
Well, I didn't see the Secret Service necessarily firing. The pictures that I've just seen of what the likely shooter up on the roof certainly makes sense, because that did seem to be where the sound of gunfire was coming from. But I actually did not witness the Secret Service returning fire. I saw them scattering and on the move pretty fast. But when I said the Secret Service responded, they were on top of the president to protect him first. But I will tell you, once even the Secret Service got or surrounded the president, there was additional shots fired. So it was quite a terrible scene.
I'm sure. Sir, thank you for joining us. Dan Muser is a congressman from Pennsylvania. He doesn't represent that district necessarily. His district's a little further east in Pennsylvania, which is going to be a battleground state in November. But tonight, it is the story in the world as we watch this unfold. A little bit of information on the election front. We're hearing from the Biden campaign that it will pause all outbound communications and working right now to pull down all television ads as they relate to the election as quickly as possible. We also do believe we'll see the president momentarily. And for that, we go back to Delaware and Lucas Tomlinson for more there. Lucas.
Well, Bill, we are just minutes away from President Biden addressing the nation about this shooting. That was the key word used in the statement from President Biden that Martha read earlier. Let me just read it one more time. I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania, which by all intents and purposes has to now be called and characterized as an assassination attempt against a former president. We're told the motorcade is here. It just arrived. We saw numerous press reporters walking into this police station right behind me, Bill, and we are minutes away from President Biden addressing the nation after this horrific shooting against the former President Donald Trump earlier today, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Lucas, very much for that. We're working with trying to get more information directly from the Trump family, the Trump campaign. Many of them are with him in that hospital in Pennsylvania. And as soon as we can get that, we'll pass it along to you. But what we're told, he's being treated and he's going to be okay. Yeah. And that's about as close as we can get to the most accurate info.
Exactly. We're told he is in good spirits. Let's bring in Guy Benson and Charlie Hurt. They are here with us in Milwaukee. And again, as you guys were gearing up for our coverage here, a shock of the situation this afternoon as we learn more and more details trickling in. Your thoughts on where we are in the political discourse right now? Guy?
Well, it's just surreal. We're all getting ready to prepare for this event, a major convention starting in a couple moments here, and then all of a sudden these reports come in and it doesn't feel like it's real. Then you see instantly in this age footage of it because it was an on-stage rally. So your question, Shannon, about political discourse is one that I think we'll be poring over as a society now for days to come. I think it's an important one, and I think it's probably safe to say that many Americans tonight, of course, praying for the former president, praying for the family of those who are dead, at least one we've heard, just a bystander, someone who went to this rally, and perhaps having a collective sense that it's time to tone down our rhetoric across the spectrum, but there's going to be a lot of, I think, discussion about how President Trump has been portrayed, the rhetoric about him for not just days and weeks, months, years, some of it extremely vitriolic. And at some point, once we have all the information, which we don't have yet, I'm sure that is a very difficult and fraught conversation that is going to happen perhaps at high decibels for quite some time.
Okay, well, we are given a 2-minute warning from Joe Biden. So I may have to interrupt you, Charlie. I'm going to get a little more information. Jackie Heinrich is saying that per law enforcement source, shooter was killed by Secret Service counter-sniper team. If you have a sniper team that's responding, that is some distance away. Charlie, go ahead, but I may have to interrupt you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything Guy just said. Thank God the president appears to be well. I've heard from people in the campaign that he is in good spirits and that he is, visiting with doctors as a precaution at this point. I hope, and it's of course an unspeakable tragedy to think of a citizen going to participate in a public.
Well, I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that people and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that they're thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do. Okay?
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make any more comments. Thank you.
Are you worried for President's safety? Was the security failing, Mr. President?
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
From the halls of Congress,
across the nation,
and around the globe. You're getting the latest news and conservative views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views. CramerSez returns after this message from our partners. Learn how you can save up to 70% on your healthcare costs with just one click. Visit CramerSez.com/impact for complete details. That's CramerSez.com/impact.
What is Impact Health Sharing?
Impact Health Sharing isn't insurance.
It's a modern, affordable alternative to traditional health insurance, offering significant cost savings.
Most members save 30 to 50% on healthcare costs. With Impact Health Sharing, you enjoy the freedom to choose any doctor without in-network restrictions.
With an easy, hassle-free enrollment process.
Plus, access telemedicine 24/7 with $0 provider fees.
Call 844-827-2637 to learn how you can save 30, 40, even up to 50% on your healthcare costs.
The CramerSez Project is back.
With global news and local views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching CramerSez.
Well, it's what we've been forecasting, what we've been predicting for the longest time, said that they will not allow this man to be president. If you think that this is a lone gunman, that this is some psycho, some crazy guy that's done what he's done, cost him his life, you think that that was just a random act, folks, that's not how this game is being played. It's being played on a much bigger scale. What we've been saying for the last 2 years in particular has come to fruition tonight. We're watching it across the globe. You heard Joe Biden just get up and speak, and this violence, we got to tone it down, folks, as he calls half the nation extremist on a daily basis. We got to tone it down, folks. It wasn't an NRA member. It wasn't a MAGA member. It wasn't a supporter of Trump. It wasn't somebody who wants the dictator. It's the same fucking side that's been bringing fake cases so that they can get an indictment, so they can say he's a felon. We made him a felon. As I've been saying for the longest time, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. You remember where I've been saying over the last 2 years is raise your voice, and people say, well, if we do that, then they'll just use that as an excuse to do what they're going to do next. They don't wait on you for an excuse. They're going to do what the fuck they're going to do. You're the one that stops them. You standing stops them. Tonight, someone lost their life because Orange Man bad. It's no longer words, folks. They were shooting at the former president and killed another fucking civilian. An innocent bystander, somebody who was just there to hear someone speak. And they're going to tell us that we got to shut down our rhetoric. If this doesn't infuriate you to the point where you now stand and say, listen, his life is at risk on a daily basis now. We know this. You think it's going to get better by being silent? Do you think it's going to get better by not saying anything, not doing anything? Do you think it's going to get better? It doesn't get better. It gets worse. I've been saying it for months. The bully on the playground. We've been predicting this for months. It's not that we have a crystal ball. I can't tell the future. I know the past. I know what men and women have been willing to justify doing to other men and women throughout history to either attain power or keep their grasp on power. We've been in a situation before, folks. When Lincoln ran, before he was assassinated, if you know your history, they took him off the fucking ballots. They tried with first of all, it was the Billy Bush reel, right? You can't vote for him. He grabs women in the pussies. And then when that didn't work, he likes to go to Russia and get peed on by Russian hookers, and we got a whole dossier about him. And when that didn't work, they went to spying on him with inside his campaign. We were saying the whole time they're going to have to kill him. They're going to kill him. They're going to have to kill him. Why? Well, because that's what these people do at this level of power. Andrew Tate put it best. He says you only get 3 lives in this world. You get the cancel life, the life that they cancel, You get the life that gets a charge, and then you get the life where they kill you. You see, that's what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. That's how they tell you your time is over, you're done. Settle down, go back don't do us any harm anymore, get out of the way. If you just step out of the way, we'll leave you alone. We won't turn our dogs on you. We won't cancel you. We won't use lawfare against you. We will not kill you. Today, a person lost their life at a Trump rally, folks. Another MAGA supporter lost their fucking life. And you're worried that they're going to use it against you. That if you speak out. I hate to break it to you like this, but you're already a victim. The war is already here. They're killing us. Folks, Ashley Babbitt, same exact thing. This will be shut down in 2 weeks. They won't be talking about the Trump assassination in 2 weeks. It'll be passé. And what I noticed tonight is nobody on the left is calling for gun reform. Not a fucking politician on the left is saying, oh, we should be getting some gun reform now. You MAGA people want some gun reform? No, because like what we saw on 9/11, when the buildings were crumbling in New York, the allies of those that took those buildings down, they rallied in the streets. The same thing's happening. Go to X tonight and take a look at liberal Twitter. Go take a look at Democrats on. Oh, they're excited. They're so excited. This is what Trump should get. This is what America needs, folks. It needs to open their eyes that those of us who have been claiming that this moment was going to come, we're not crazy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't like conspiracies. I don't like the theory part of it. I want to see fucking fact. And when we look at what the options are for this fall in this country, and for people who want to attain power or hold on to this power, what they have to do, there's only so many options available. And there would be nothing better than to get rid of Trump through an assassination attempt, and then they can let Joe step down gracefully. Trump didn't force him out. It was just his time. And then we'll get whoever the RNC puts up and whoever the DNC puts up, and okay, these are the new people, and it's all over. Unless you get involved. They weren't successful. Hopefully they've opened up some eyes. That what I've been saying, we cannot wait for anybody else to do this for us. Our politicians, the pundits, the mainstream media, they will not do what's best for you. They will do what's best for them. I know, because I came from that arena. I'm speaking to you. It's like like what Chappelle said, coming out of the party and telling you what they're fucking doing to you in there. And then you don't believe me. You don't think that it's going to actually happen in your lifetime. Folks, when I said that they would assassinate Trump before the election, when I made that prediction, that's one of the things that they have open to them that will make their life a lot easier. It wasn't because I want him assassinated. It's not because I don't want people to support Trump. Some people said, well, Kramer, you're saying that so that we just won't go vote for Trump. No, you're not listening. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter what I do. They've got a plan. They've been very consistent with the plan. The WHO is now saying, hey, guys, we're going to have to offer an international bird flu. The bird flu's out of control. It's going to be an epidemic. We're going to need to take some measures. You're going to be 6 feet apart. Mask again. Mandates. They're starting the whole bullshit over again. It's like Hollywood. They've only got so many stories. They've run out of stories. An assassination of the leading opponent of the guy who's currently in power. Joe didn't spend much time on it, did he? It's kind of hard to call people out for being extremist when you've been calling half the nation extremist for the last 3 or 4 years. Those MAGA extremists didn't try to assassinate Joe Biden. or Barack Obama or Tony Fauci. No, the extremist went after Trump. Folks, it doesn't get much better. It doesn't get any better until you realize that the control of your life starts locally. It doesn't start in D.C. What we're seeing is the play out of a big game. D.C. is the Las Vegas for politics, right? That's where everybody gets to make their real big money, but you can make pretty good money if you do it at home. And that's where the real corruption is. It's not in D.C. D.C. can be taken care of if we take care of home. If our state legislatures were actually doing exactly what they're supposed to do, by law, by constitution, of protecting us from the overreach of the federal government, but they're not. They've partnered with these people. And then you think going to D.C. to rally or to yell or to scream does anything. It doesn't, because the real problem is back at home in your state. Where in Indiana, for example, we've got quasi-private public entities that have become all the rage with state government. It allows them to take our money, give it to a private corporation, and they're going to bring us progress. They're picking winners and losers in the state of Indiana. We're supposed to be a Republican state. We're not. We're a fascist state where the government partners with businesses, nudges other businesses out through regulation or non-licensure, meaning they won't issue the documents needed for that entity to work in Indiana. It's corruption, folks, through and through. And that's at home. That's not in D.C. That's happening in our own backyards here in Indiana. I'm sure it's happening in your state as well. Go find out if you've got a WEF in your state. And what I mean by that is, do you have an economic development corporation of some sort in your state? In Indiana, we have found out we were spending hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars, having offices all around the globe for the IEDC. It's a private corporation that uses taxpayer dollars. What the fuck do you call that? That's called fascism. The government can't be in bed with the businesses and then regulating those businesses. I guess they can. They've done it. But that's where the real problems are. So what you're seeing out of D.C. starts at home. If you want D.C. to change, you got to change home first. If you want your community to change, if you want change, folks, you've got to be an active participant. You got to stop bitching and moaning about it. You got to get in the fucking streets. You got to get in people's faces. Because at some point, you got to show the bully that you're done. That's what tonight should show you. They think that they have the autonomy to do whatever they want to do. They're going to do it. Trump is in the way. Trump has to go. If lawfare won't do it, then they'll do it from some other means. They don't care how it happens, folks. I've been saying it for months. Trump will not be allowed to be the president of this country again. They will not allow it to happen. They will go to war first. They will go to war with the American people first. If you don't believe that, go look at that footage from tonight. It's all they have left. They cannot allow Trump to investigate them. People go, well, Kramer, you're sounding like Trump's going to be defeated. Folks, you don't have to defeat him if you kill him. What would you do if you were in their situation? If you knew what you had done, if you knew the crimes that you had committed, and that if Trump gets back in, he's going to come for you, and you may spend the rest of your life in jail, if not hang for your crimes and your treason and your traitorous actions, what would you do to stay out of jail if you were currently in power? Joe Biden said that if he was just a tweet this morning, I believe it was this morning, that you vote for him, he's going to give you gun control. He's going to ban those semi-automatic weapons. He did it once before, he'll do it again. That was this morning. That's what Joe was tweeting out this morning. Well, why not do it now, Joe? You're president right now. Why didn't you get it done in the last 4 years? because all they have is promises, empty air. He doesn't plan to deliver on anything. Nobody's going to keep him. No. Joe went in and lost the debate with paying off student loans, so he had to defy the Supreme Court and find another way to do it. Nobody sued him for that yet. I'm interested to see at the end of the day if any of these people, that got their student loans paid for, are they going to be liable for those tax dollars? To pay taxes on that unearned income? Is that going to happen? It should. Because that came from us. That was a gift from the American people. Not from Joe, not from the Democrats, from the American people. Well, it's really tough. Yeah, I know. It's what happens when you make bad decisions. And rigged elections have consequences. We'll be right back after this.
Do you have a CramerSez.com free speech account? Unlike other platforms, CramerSez is 100% free speech. Get your free CramerSez account today at CramerSez.com.
Cause fuck censorship.
Impact Health Sharing isn't insurance. It's affordable health care.
Impact Health Sharing offers comprehensive medical services, covering preventive care, maternity, accidents, illnesses, and injuries.
Plus, choose any doctor or healthcare provider you trust with no in-network restrictions.
Enjoy the freedom and coverage you need
for your entire family.
To learn more about how you can save 30, 40, even up to 50% on your healthcare costs, call 844-827-2637.
That's 844-827-2637.
CramerSez is everywhere. Twitter, Truth, Instagram, and always on America's fastest growing free speech platform. CramerSez Social. Make your free account today at CramerSez.com.
Introducing Tusk.
With Tusk, you get uncensored news and secure browsing,
all while protecting your privacy.
Choose the news you trust and take control of your internet.
Join the free speech revolution with Tusk.
Download Tusk today at tuskbrowser.com. Learn how you can save up to 70% on your healthcare costs with just one click. Visit CramerSez.com/impact for complete details. That's CramerSez.com/impact. The CramerSez Project is back.
With global news and local views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching CramerSez.
Honestly, it was so unbelievable.
Take a look. Right, you've watched there the recap of what happened as President Trump was under attack, essentially there at this rally in Pennsylvania. We are told that the shooter is dead. We are told by local authorities there in Butler, Pennsylvania, also that there is another person who's been a fatality in this case, others who are potentially injured as well. But you saw President Trump wanting to send the signal, bloodied there and being dragged out by his Secret Service, that he was okay. His fist pumping in the air, letting folks know that he was not going down. He had said to the Secret Service, "Let me get my shoes," and he wanted to walk out there as they were trying to bundle and get him out, which is their job. They got that cordon around him. And what probably slowed them down, Bill, was him wanting to make sure that people knew he was okay.
Shannon, you were sitting here when the rally began, and you
Yep.
tossed to it live on the air, and you described it to me as about happening, 5 minutes into his
Roughly.
address. And I think for all of us, frankly, when we hear the news and then we see it and we watch it, yeah, it's stunning. But when the news starts to settle in and you realize that was so close to hitting the right temple on the former president's head, and that could have been a kill shot. And there were some reports suggesting that the shooter was outside the perimeter where this rally was being held. We haven't confirmed that. Some people talking about him being on top of a rooftop. Maybe that's true, but the investigation is going to play out when it plays out. And we'll get that information to you as quickly as we can, but not before we confirm it ourselves. There's a lot of stuff flying around social media, as you can imagine. X travels fast. Okay, so we'll try and keep up as best we can. But to help try and answer some of these questions, retired ATF Deputy Assistant Director Peter Forcelli is with us now. And sir, thank you for your time and good evening to you. You have watched the video. Can you take us through what you see in that 2-minute period?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Bill. Yeah, look, President Trump is incredibly lucky to be alive. Had that bullet been a couple inches to the right, aimed to the right, it would have taken his life, I have no doubt. Keep in mind, the bullet travels faster than sound. So he felt that injury before he would have heard that first shot go off. Obviously, he dropped to the ground. The Secret Service did a phenomenal job of surrounding him. And think of the courage that takes, too, for these Secret Service agents to put themselves between a gunman who is shooting at the president and the president. And then if you notice, while he's down on the ground, you heard one of the Secret Service operators say the shooter is down. And it's at that point where they start to stand former President Trump up, but still maintaining a perimeter around him to protect him just in the event, I would imagine, there was another shooter. But terrifying. It's very sad that someone lost their life there. Incredibly lucky that President Trump did not lose his. And Secret Service did a phenomenal job. Again, not just in protecting the president, but in eliminating a threat rather quickly. So it could have been a much worse result, especially in such a crowd where other people could have been injured. Right. So we got off lucky, hate to say.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, how tough is it with these large political rallies, in this case, often outside, thousands of people there? How tough is it? What kind of a headache, sort of a nightmare is it for law enforcement trying to get that scene completely sanitized, at least as close as you can from a threat?
No, it's very difficult. And as Paul Morrow said earlier on the show, look, I was with NYPD before I was with ATF, where we handled large crowds all the time. And oftentimes what you'll do is you'll magnetometer people coming in and out. The Secret Service does that. They have the uniform division that often screens people coming to these events. But it's very difficult because you have so many moving parts and so many people. And, again, my understanding from what I'm hearing from my sources is similar to what you're hearing, that the person was not inside of the event, but firing from a rooftop, which does make sense when you hear that it was the counter snipers that actually eliminated this threat. That's their job, is to take out a sniper, hence the term counter sniper. But they did a phenomenal job, and my prayers for President Trump and his family, and for the family of the person who lost their life there.
Yeah, Peter, just one last quick question here. It's kind of hard to say right now. How long is this investigation going to take?
Well, it might take some time. Obviously, once they have the identity of the shooter, they're going to want to look at what he's done in the past. They want to look at his social media. They're going to try to find out where that firearm came from. Who purchased that firearm for him? Did he purchase it for himself? It could go on for several months, and it will probably be worked jointly with the FBI taking the lead, because it was an assassination attempt on a former president, and Secret Service providing support along with other federal agencies within their areas of expertise.
Well, they know who this person is, obviously. Shooter's dead. Will they tell us tonight?
I think they should, but again, it's going to depend on where that investigation takes them. Again, because they want to find out if there were other parties involved, and disclosing the name of the shooter could potentially cause other people to go into hiding. So it's going to depend on where the investigation takes them, I believe.
Thank you, sir. Peter Forcelli, thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it. With Fox Digital, Brooke Singman reports this. The former Attorney General, Bill Barr, is quoted as saying, "The Democrats have to stop their grossly irresponsible talk about Trump being an existential threat to democracy. He is not." That statement from Bill Barr into Fox Digital just now.
Yeah, let's take that to our Fox News contributors, Guy Benson and Charlie Hurt. Guy, you heard what the former AG said, like, we got to turn down the temperature.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I think, a theme that is going to play out and be repeated in different ways in the coming days. We're still trying to wait to get all the facts in. I think that is always smart to do, but on its face, this is horrifying. As we were just replaying the incident in real time, several seconds into the chaos and the melee, there's a blood-curdling scream from a woman that just chills you to the core. The terror, the horror, and this at a campaign rally for a man running for president. This has no place in our country. And just to zoom out for a moment, think about the volatility that we already faced in American politics, with all the legal issues surrounding President Trump, the type of rhetoric that the former Attorney General just alluded to in that statement that we read, the turmoil on the Democratic side of the aisle with their likely nominee and some of the drama there. We were heading into a convention season, a summer season, before a presidential election that was already simmering at about an 8 or 9 out of 10 on the temperature scale. And now we have, on top of it, what very much appears to be an assassination attempt against a former president of the United States and the leading candidate for president in the country right now. So I think it's totally appropriate for people to be calling for prayers for the former president, his family, and all those affected by what happened today. I think if you're the praying type, it might be in order to pray for our country right now, because these are dark days. And I think if we can take a collective step back and a breath and pray for our well-being as a nation, that is probably a good idea on a night like this.
Senator Josh Hawley saying there needs to be a full congressional investigation into how this could have happened. Major security breach. He's exactly right about that. I imagine the investigation, Charlie, is probably beginning right this hour.
Yes, I would think so, without a doubt. It is an extraordinary moment. You know, there are a lot of things that we don't know right at the moment, but one of the things that we do know, based on all of the available evidence right at the moment, is that this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And I was struck by your very powerful interview just a minute ago with Steve Scalise. And it's a very sobering reminder of how long this toxic swill has kind of been brewing in this country. And it's unacceptable. You can't have a free country of self-governance when you have violence like this. And it's, we are so lucky that we're not looking at a far graver situation for Donald Trump. Obviously, a supporter of his went out today to participate in our public politics, and apparently is dead. And that is just so unthinkable and so despicable. One other thing I think is important to note, as you pointed out, Donald Trump's, for all he knew, he was dead at that moment. Yet he took a moment to want to hold back and make sure people knew that he was okay. And to me, that is a sign of bravery and toughness and a concern for our political process in this country that is sorely needed. And I think he should be lauded for that. He is the toughest son of a gun to, I think, ever run for president.
Jake Gibson, a producer at Fox News, covers the Department of Justice and many other things for us, sends this message. Urgent, shooter dead, AR recovered. Federal law enforcement source says the shooter is dead and that an AR-style rifle was recovered at the scene. That from Jake Gibson, working the story back in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and we are hearing from Matt Reedy, who is one of our producers, who is often on the campaign trail. He's out talking with folks here in Milwaukee, where we are getting ready to start the RNC, getting their reaction to this. He talks to one man who says this: "It is a tragedy. I hate to see what this country is becoming. I personally believe that we're onto some devastating events in our future. And, at the end of the day, I think Trump's just trying to make things better. Regardless of where you're coming from politically, guys, you said maybe it is time to pray for this country as a whole, for those who don't already do that, because it feels so divided. And the actions of this person today, as we get to learn more about it."
If I could here, I apologize for the interruption. Here we go. This is from Donald Trump's account, @RealDonaldTrump, and I'm going to go ahead and read it to you by way of Trump's campaign, who sends it this way and says the following. "I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening." He concludes in all caps, "God bless America!" Exclamation point. That from Donald Trump at the medical facility now in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and my goodness, you can see As we saw these photos, you could see his bloodied ear and that blood across his face and his cheek there as well. And one of our guests, Peter Forcelli, who was on moments ago, said based on how, guns and trajectory and sound work, he probably was hit before he even realized the sound of what he was hearing. And we saw him before he hit the ground, that he reached up to touch his ear. So as we've said repeatedly, the fact that this person was shooting at the former president of the United States, a current presidential contender, and within millimeters, centimeters, a difference. You are right there by his temple, and clearly it appears now that was the intention, was to take this man out. And what a miracle that he was not hit, that it wasn't just even a fraction of a measurement different, and you see him reacting in that moment.
Guy, Charlie, stand by. I want to go back to the scene now. Correspondent Alexis McAdams has more from people that she is talking with. There's a little bit of daylight left. The days are long this year. It's kind of nice in the summertime, but mid-July, that summer heat in Pennsylvania, must have been a remarkable day for so many tens of thousands who showed up for a rally to support a man that they want to put back in the White House. But this day is ending in a much different fashion. Alexis.
Bill, that's right. A hot day here and a humid day in Butler, Pennsylvania, where people waited for hours because they love former President Donald Trump. Everybody we talked to out here wanted to hear and, get a glimpse of him. And we got on that stage. He talked about some of his hot topics as usual during that, those rallies. There was the music playing, the excitement building, and then you heard a series of loud pops, which we're hearing from law enforcement officials was now gunshots. So I'm going to walk you this way a little bit. I want to take you here so we can talk with some of the people who were close and heard what happened and saw what happened. So you were there. You said your son was even closer to the man who ended up actually getting killed here at this rally. Tell me what you saw.
Well, we were supposed to be down there where my son was, but it was so hot and sunny that we decided to seek shade up, way up. So we weren't down where it happened, but my son was. And as soon as we heard what happened, I called him immediately, and he just said, "I'm okay." He goes, "I can't talk right now." And he was on the ground. And then that's all we knew. We just stayed up where we were. We were way up on top of the hill.
When you heard those pops, did you know that they were gunshots? Did you think that they were gunshots?
It took me so by surprise, but I knew that wasn't normal. I knew something was wrong, and people were running. Instantly, people were running and screaming to get out. And we just didn't know what to do. And the first thing I did was call my son.
And your son was pretty close to that man who was shot. Yes. Did he describe kind of what it looked like? Was that man was he taken out by authorities?
He was. He said there was blood everywhere. People were splattered with blood. Yeah. And he said it's something I never wanted to see.
He said he went down instantly. Like when he got hit, he probably never knew what hit him.
Yeah.
And how close was your son sitting to this man who was shot?
He said he was about 6 feet away.
I think now, we were shocked too when we were up there, on the media stage and you hear the pops. You don't really know what's going on. You try to take cover knowing that your son was so close and could have been shot. How are you feeling?
In shock. In shock. Can't believe it that this would happen in Butler, Pennsylvania. And my son saw the shooter on the roof of that AGR building.
Walk me through what he told you about that, because we've seen, and Bill, you know that too, we've seen these reports coming in, possible, photos or pictures of people in the crowd trying to see, what was going on, where the shooter was. Where did your son see a possible gunman?
He was laying on the roof of an AGR building, not in the farm show grounds.
Okay. So where is that, let's say, when you're looking at the former president on that stage, the AGR building is how far out? Like being pretty close to that? Like, are we talking about behind the stage, in front of the stage? Where is this?
It's out a little ways. Yeah, it's. I don't know, 100 feet or better, a couple hundred feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what we're hearing. Just knowing that somebody was possibly up on a roof. These people's family members saw someone up on a roof. We know the suspected gunman at this point is dead, and police recovering evidence at this point, as well as somebody who was just here for a Trump rally ends up getting shot and killed possibly. So we're keeping an eye on these developments, Bill.
Thanks, Alexis. Good to have you, Alexis McAdams, back there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Thank you again. We'll be back with you momentarily, Shannon.
All right, let's check in with former Secret Service agent Tim Miller joining us now. Tim, this is a very difficult assignment. We thank you You and those who serve as you do voluntarily to walk into these situations and quickly act as we saw today are heroes. I mean, what is it like to plan for this, to have a protectee, and to find yourself potentially facing this situation at any moment that you're in service?
Well, I want to give kudos to the agents today. Their response was amazing. And it goes to show you that this is the premier law enforcement protective agency in the world. Now, with that said, we often knew every time we did in advance that it's impossible to fully protect the President of the United States, as we saw today. Fortunately, their quick response today resulted in a president not losing his life. And, you know, he was half an inch away from losing his life. I think when you look at the details of what they have to do every day, the advances, it really brings home that Secret Service agents must be on their game every minute of every day, because if you think of the number of stops, you think of what they have to do daily, they have to be ready. And today they were ready.
Sir, we're getting some information about how many rounds were fired. None of this has been confirmed, but some of our colleagues are reporting this on other networks about an AR-style rifle, maybe 8 rounds fired. Maybe this shooter was up to 200 or 300 yards away. If you were to imagine that based on what limited information we have, does that sound right to you?
It absolutely does. You know, the effective range of an AR is about 300 yards. And ever since 1963, the Secret Service is very concerned about anybody up on roofs. I saw some reports that people saw someone up on the roof. And if that's true, then the Secret Service has countermeasures to that. So there's a lot of questions to be answered right now. I will tell you it happens in split seconds. So 8 rounds from 300 yards, especially with, you know, the shooters, you know, actually striking at least a portion of the president is very alarming.
Sir, thank you very much for your expertise on this historic evening and a day of tragedy for the family who lost their own loved one at that rally.
It absolutely is, and others that we understand, at least one, maybe others critically injured, and the folks there forever shocked and scarred, and many who were watching this live in our country. As we walk through this moment, we want to replay for folks who have not seen this start to finish, so you can see the reaction as the moment President Trump realizes something has gone very wrong. By his own account moments ago, he says he knew that he had to get down, that there was something terribly wrong unfolding. He heard the shots. We'll let you watch for yourself through the moment that you see this. When he lifts his fist, lets people know as he is hurried away by the Secret Service that he's going to be fine.
Take a look at what happened. Oh. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare. Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. We ready? Shooter's down. Shooter's down. Are we good? Shooter's down. Shooter's down. Are we good to move? Shooter's down. We're good to move. We're clear. We're clear. Let's move. Let's move. We're clear. Come on. Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold that in your head. It's bloody. So we got to move to the bus. Move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay. My shoes down. Get the shoe. Watch out. Wait.
so unbelievable. I didn't, this is
We're going to go over that 2 minutes and 30 seconds for an awful long time, that video there. Statement by the U.S. Secret Service just came out 2 minutes ago. It's a long paragraph. I'm going to read it now, okay? During former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on the evening of July 13, at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots toward the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed, 2 spectators critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation, and the Secret Service has notified the FBI. Shannon, what clearly sticks out is that line about a suspected shooter firing multiple shots from an elevated position outside of the rally venue, which would synchronize with some of the things we've been picking up on social media about a man dead on top of a roof outside of the rally itself.
Yeah, and witnesses who were there on the scene have talked with our Alexis McAdams. I want to read, too, from Ivanka Trump saying, "Thank you for your love and prayers for my father and for other victims of today's senseless violence in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and all the other law enforcement officers for their quick and decisive actions today. I continue to pray for our country. I love you, Dad, today and always."
Wow. Jason Chaffetz, quickly to you. I've got some more information, but go ahead, Jason.
This is a catastrophic failure of the United States Secret Service. The men and women who jumped on the former president, got in between him and a would-be shooter, they're heroes. But if there was a person with a gun within proximity to take down the president of the United States, those people have got to be held accountable. They should be fired. There is no reason that a gun should be within close proximity that can shoot a former president of the United States. That's why we have the Secret Service, and they failed us today. They failed us.
Jason, thank you. Jake Gibson reports the ID is not confirmed. Federal law sources, enforcement sources, tell us the shooter's identity is still unconfirmed, and they're working on it. But first reports suggest the shooter was not carrying ID. So that is the initial report about the potential identity of the shooter. Shannon, you've got Fox News Sunday tomorrow morning. You will be on this story then. And thank you for your excellent work tonight.
You too, my friend.
All right, here's Sean.
And welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. Today, the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was the target of an apparent assassination attempt. One innocent attendee is now dead. President Trump, we are told, is alive and well and now in a safe location. The shooter, meanwhile, has been killed by U.S. Secret Service. And just breaking moments ago, President Trump's first reaction on Truth Social, quote, "I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country." Now, nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. He said, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America." According to the Secret Service tonight, quote, during former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on the evening of July 13th at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots towards the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed. 2 spectators were critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation. The Secret Service has notified the FBI. And in case you missed it, here's what went down just a few hours ago with sound. Take a listen. Take a look.
Take a look at what happened.
Ready? Move! Up! Move! Go! Up! Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready? Down. Down. Are we good? Shooters down. Shooters down. Are we good to move? Shooters down. We're good to move. We're clear. Let's move. Let's move. We're clear. Come on. Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold that in your head. It's bloody. So we got to move to the classroom. Move to the classroom. Let me get my shoes. Okay. My shoes down. Watch out. Wait.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
From the halls of Congress
Across the nation.
and around the globe.
You're getting the latest news and conservative views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
America's political prisoners need our help. CramerSez is on a mission to raise $100,000 or more. Can you help? Join our mission today at CramerSez.shop.
Why pay more for your health care? Impact Health Sharing is a not-for-profit organization, meaning more savings for you. Most members save 30 to 50% on their health care costs compared to traditional insurance. Enjoy affordable health care without the high costs. Call 844-827-2637 to learn more about how you can save 30, 40, even up to 50% on your health care costs. Impact Health Sharing isn't insurance. It's affordable health care. Call now, 844-827-2637.
Learn how you can save up to 70% on your healthcare costs with just one click. Visit CramerSez.com/impact for complete details. That's CramerSez.com/impact.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching CramerSez.
Well, here we are, hours after an assassination attempt on President Donald J. Trump, and it doesn't come as a shock, folks. We've been talking about it for the last several months. We've been talking about the only options that they have available to them as Joe crumbles in front of the world. Everyone can see that Trump is the guy. They cannot allow it to happen. That's what I've been predicting for the last several months. They cannot allow this man to be the leader of this nation. They cannot allow themselves to be under the investigation of the guy that they just tried to assassinate. They can't allow that to happen. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. And primarily, the reason I say that isn't to be a fearmonger. Isn't to make you afraid. It's to embolden you. Folks, these people are no different. I've been talking about it for months. These people are no different than the bully on the playground. It's fear and intimidation. Step down or we'll hurt you. We'll hurt somebody in your family. We'll destroy your career. We'll take your livelihood. That's what they do today. Back in the old days, they just took your lunch money. They pushed you around, made fun of you. But today, they ruin your life. They don't have the authority to do it. They didn't have it then. They don't have it now. The only thing that stops the bully is you. And what's Trump been saying since the time he started running? He goes, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm standing in the way. And at some point, we've got to stop relying on Trump and others to be the only ones standing up. The hatred of the left today cost an American citizen their life. They were going for Trump. They just happened to get an innocent bystander. I don't know what this person's name is yet, but I think it should be our Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks was the first person killed in the Revolution. It's a freed black man. First person killed. That's what happened today. This new revolution that has begun. We didn't start this fight. January 6th was not about overthrowing the government. If it had been, we would have brought guns. We didn't bring guns. We brought our voice. We came to peacefully gather. And for that, they're threatened. That can never happen again. You can't question us. We run the elections. That's why I've been telling you they're not going to allow Trump to be president. This will not be the last attempt, I'm sure. It was a close one today. America, you've got to wake the fuck up. You can't sit back anymore and wait for the politicians and everyone else to do the right thing to save this nation. If you love this nation, we're going to have to save it ourselves. They're incapable of saving it. They're the ones that got us here. They're incapable of fixing the problem they created. This is the world they wanted. My dad gave me advice when I was a kid a long time ago. If you wanted to, you would. If they wanted to, they would. That's what he lived by. If something didn't get done, guess I didn't really want to do it all that bad. Don't bitch and moan to me about how you want to go climb the Kilimanjaro and you haven't even taken your first climbing lesson yet. Don't bitch to me. If you wanted to, you would. That's what my dad would tell me. If you wanted to, you would. You would make it happen. If you wanted to, it's the same thing here today, folks, no different. If these politicians really wanted to fix these problems, that's what they would be doing. Instead, they're creating problems. And because of the vitriol and the hate over the last several years that's been allowed from the left, and the mainstream media has allowed it. Women, those vipers on The View, the cunts over on MSNBC, we're tired of it. We're tired of the vitriol and the hate on a daily basis because we don't believe that you have the right to kill the unborn. Call us crazy, but we think that killing people, regardless of where they are in their life's journey, and for that, we're the problem. We're the problem because we don't want kids learning how to butt fuck in elementary school. We're the problem. We're not the problem. We're tired of being positioned all the time as the bully when we're actually the victim. Don't give a fuck what you do in your private life. You can't do that shit in elementary schools. Why aren't these drag queens, why aren't they going out and why aren't they reading to the elderly? Why aren't they reading to the blind? There's a reason they're not. Because that doesn't get their jollies. They don't get their jollies. They don't get their rocks off by doing it for the elderly. No, they got to imagine, new talent coming to the fold. Not that old wrinkled shit. We don't need any of that. No, we want some new bile bodies coming into the fold because, you see, we have to recruit. If you're tired of it, folks, you've got to start being vocal about it. Not being shy about it. Because what they're showing you is exactly what we've been saying. They can justify somebody. We don't know who this person was. We don't know what the attempt was. We don't know what's going on here. But somebody felt justified enough to take a pot shot at a former president. That's what they felt justified in doing. That's what happens when, the current president of the United States says that man is Hitler. That man is a Nazi. When Joe Biden tells you that these MAGA extremists are going to rip your nation from you and put you all back in chains, when that happens on a daily basis, this is what you can get. And we're the ones that are using violence, that our words are violence. We're saying, no, we don't want you doing that. We don't care what you do in your private lives, but you can't do that with the kids. You can't do that here. We don't want that here. Keep your shit where it's supposed to be. Do you want the government out of your bedroom? Well, keep your bedroom out of the fucking classroom, you fucking cunts. These are all just, I think, common sense, everyday things. You don't want your kid finding out what a dildo is. Well, that's why they got special stores. You can't go to Target. You can't go to JCPenney. You can't go to Von Maur. There's not a dildo department in those stores. There are special stores for that. And kids aren't allowed. And to try and to say that it's justified because we're bringing it in through education, well, that's what Hitler did. That's what the Nazis did, which is what's funny because of all the projection from the people on the left using the exact same tactics that Goebbels used, that the communists used, the socialists used. And our silence is compliance. When you allow it to continue happening, because it's just easier to go along and get along than it is to stand up, you get what we got today, folks. Where someone felt justified enough to, well, take their life into their own hands and try to assassinate a former president who's currently running for president. I'm sure they'll say it's a lone gunman, but it's going to spawn many more. It has to. Because they've got to get this problem taken care of. They cannot allow Trump to be president. They can't let him in there to investigate them. I think it's ironic that the FBI is going to have to investigate the assassination attempt of Donald Trump when they keep hiding the assassination information from 70 years ago, or not 70 years ago, but with JFK back in 63. Think about that. Biden locked that information up for another 75 years, and the same people who investigated that one and mucked it up are now supposed to be... They're going to investigate Trump's attempted assassination? The people that he's calling for them to be defunded and investigated, they're going to go in and do a fair job for Trump. That's where we are in this nation, folks. And it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. Why? Because they don't have what they want yet. They got to get this election out from behind them. They got to get out in front of it. They've got to get past this. How do they do it? I don't know what they're going to do. But you think about it, an assassination attempt against a former president is a pretty good way to start. Have you seen what's on X tonight? Have you seen the responses on social media? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everybody's saying the exact same thing. This is revolution. This is civil war. You don't want this. But you're driving it. We don't hate each other. We just fucking disagree. But you start killing us, we're going to have a problem with that. And we're the best armed people on the face of the planet. Not Americans, conservatives. When we decide we're finally done, we're done. And the nation will do what the conservatives want. When we decide that we're done. When we decide that red line has been crossed and you've been crazy for just a little bit too long, it's done. When we say it's time. Who are those people? Those are the masculine men and women who are leaders in this country. They're starting to step forward now. They've been doing it for the last several years. So far, those who aided Trump initially are in jail. Peter Navarro, jail. Steve Bannon, jail. Donald J. Trump, they tried to assassinate. Folks, they're not fucking around. And if you think that this is some new Q thing, and you're still into that bullshit, that all of this has to happen, when is enough going to be enough? When are you going to realize that they want this nation to fall? It only benefits them if it falls. Chaos is what they feast on. They have to bring so much chaos into the system that you're willing to do whatever to get back to what semblance of normal you can expect in this new world that they're creating. Only you have the strength. Only you can say no. Only you. We have the authority in this nation. Nobody else. No man has the authority over you. If you haven't broken the law, no man has authority over you. No one. You're as free as I am. I'm as free as you are. I can't come and hinder you. The government doesn't have the authority to do that. They don't have the authority. You've got to stop letting them pretend that they do. That's why when I was working for the Indiana state government, And I'd have to work with a governor, have to work with a senator, or a state rep. Every once in a while, their press person or whatever come, hey, would it be okay is that when you're corresponding, you're talking to the congressman, or you're talking to the senator, or you're talking to the governor, if you just do us a favor and just, label them by your honor or governor, don't call them by their first name. Get the fuck out of here. Are you fucking insane? He works for me. I'll tell him what he calls me. No. Maybe that's why I'm not working for him anymore, because I went and told their secrets. You see, what I did is I came out and I spoke out against Governor Holcomb, who was breaking his own rules, tried to put a mask mandate in place, got his hand slapped by the AG. So then he turns his forces on the AG, and they get the AG booted out of his position. That's Indiana for you. These are Republicans. If you think that the people that are currently in charge of your state legislature are doing the best job they can, and you think that you're getting overtaxed and overreached by D.C., you can't blame the guys in D.C. That's what they're there for. The guys in your state house are the ones who are supposed to be protecting you from those motherfuckers. Stop looking to D.C. for the answers. Get to your state houses. You live in the communities that your representatives live in. That's what our founders wanted. They wanted the community to be able to get together and have conversation, know each other, go to church together, go to the same schools and the same clubs or whatever. That's what our founders had in mind. Community, small, limited government, local. And we've let it balloon into what it is today, where you've got 4 million people that work for the federal government doing God knows what with your money, every one of them trying to make as much as they can off the system. 4 million people. 4 million. Every time Joe tells you that job numbers are growing, you always have to go look at how many more people have gone on to the government dole as a government employee, because that's how they get those numbers up. They're fake numbers, folks. You got to look at where the numbers are coming from. What we got tonight, because we've been going along with this fucking lie, because we didn't do anything about 2020, we're sitting here today with Donald Trump having an attempted assassination attempt. That doubled that up quite a bit there, didn't it? Because we didn't take care of 2020. Because the people who threw a coup, who overthrew this nation in 2020 through a rigged election, those people have not been held to account. They still run free. As Peter Navarro and Bannon and Trump is under indictment. He was supposed to be sentenced on July 11th. They decided, well, we can't sentence him, then we've got to kill him. We're going to move that sentencing to September. That's not good enough. We need him gone now. Nothing in politics happens by coincidence. Nothing. We'll be right back after this.
Preventive care and mental health are essential. Impact Health Sharing offers annual wellness visits and mental health support. Take care of your body and mind with affordable healthcare solutions from Impact Health Sharing. Experience comprehensive care for your overall well-being, mind, body, and soul. Call 844-827-2637 now to learn more about how you can save 30, 40, even up to 50% on your healthcare costs. Impact Health Sharing isn't insurance. It's affordable healthcare. Call now.
America's political prisoners need our help. CramerSez is on a mission to raise $100,000 or more. Can you help? Join our mission today at CramerSez.shop.
Introducing Tusk.
With Tusk, you get uncensored news and secure browsing.
All while protecting your privacy.
Choose the news you trust and take control of your internet.
Join the free speech revolution with Tusk.
Download Tusk today at tuskbrowser.com.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching CramerSez.
Going to wrap up tonight. We're not going to go back to Fox. They don't have any new information, so we're going to just close things down for this evening. Thanks for joining. Folks, I want you to remember, as we move through the next few months in this nation, it's only going to get worse. It can't get any better. And the reason I say that is because the people who got us here don't know how to fix it. They know how to get us into messes. They know how to start a fire. They don't know how to put a fire out. And the dumpster fire that the United States is right now is because we have not raised our voices. We keep waiting for somebody else to step up and say, I've got the solution. The solution is simple. We go back to local. Don't worry about D.C. We take our state legislatures. We make them accountable to us, we the people. The federal government is overreaching. You think it's uncomfortable now? We have to start doing what the left has done for years, but at the local basis. We take away the power of the federal government at the state level. That's how we do it. If we don't do it that way, we're in trouble. There's no other way to do it. The federal government is way too big. We've got to rob it of every fucking dollar that we can, because that's what feeds it. That's its fuel. That's what it eats money and, what is it? It eats people and shits money. That's what a buddy of mine says. DC eats people and shits money. And it's the truth. Get yourself a local group, folks. This thing goes sideways. If they get what they want, if the wargaming that we've been doing for the last 3 years, if any of it is true in any way, shape, or form, by the way, what happened tonight, we predicted 2 years ago. We said these are the only outcomes that can possibly work. When the lawfare doesn't work, assassination is all they have left. If you go back and you look at my X timeline in particular, I keep posting the exact same thing over and over and over again. There's only 3 scenarios available. That's it. There are no other special scenarios. None of these scenarios include Trump being president ever. They cannot allow it to happen. Tonight is proof of that. Oh, it's just a lone gunman. Yeah, right. That's why we don't know what happened with Lee Harvey Oswald and the JFK assassination and the magic bullets. After almost 70 years, 60 years, we still don't know. Still don't know exactly what happened because we can't release that. Why? Not because it would be embarrassing and show us who killed him, that the Bushes had something to do with it, that Bush Sr. and his daddy Prescott, that they had their fingers in that assassination. That's not what they're worried about. They're worried about you finding out that the FBI and the CIA worked hand in hand to take out a president that was a risk to them. I bring that up because of what happened today. You have to know your history. You have to know what people in this nation have been willing to justify doing to other people. Back in the 60s, the CIA wanted to take down American airliners with missiles and then blame it on the Russians and the Cubans so that they could go invade Cuba. That's what the CIA was wanting to do in the 1960s. Do you think that they've gotten any better? Do you think that they've gotten any more humane? I dare say they haven't. We're just commodities. We're pawns on a plate or on a board. They move them as they will. Today's a perfect example. We don't like this guy who's running for king. We got to take him out. Oh, it was some crazed lone gunman. It always is. They're not going to tie themselves to it. They'd be stupid to do that. So as Americans, we have to start using our brain just a little bit and start thinking for ourselves that when we see something in the media, I'm not the first guy that jumps to conspiracy theories. I'm seeing all kinds of people. Oh, look at the Secret Service, how slow that they react. Listen, folks, you know what I've seen? All these motherfuckers that are making these assumptions about how slowly the Secret Service, they should be faster than that. I've seen you fucks try to get off the couch when a firecracker's been put at your feet. You couldn't fucking move. You're going to tell me that you're going to move faster than the Secret Service moved today. You're fucking morons. You're looking for a conspiracy just so you don't have to face the fact that what we're saying is happening in real time. You want to have a conspiracy so you can focus on it rather than what's happening right now in front of you. They're going to kill Trump. They're going to put him in prison. That's all they have available to them. They cannot allow him to be the president. They cannot allow themselves to be investigated. That's not a conspiracy. That's a fact. And all I have to look for the signs that they'll do anything is what happened today. The Bragg case. The election interference case. They've overreached and overreached and overreached. They don't care. They're trying to do anything they can to make Trump look bad, Orange Man bad, old skin and bones over here look good, and they can't do him. They can't make Biden look any better. It's the best he is. This is the best they got. This is the best Biden right now. Today, right now. Tomorrow, I can't guarantee what you're going to get tomorrow from Joe Biden. But they're not going to stop until they've reached their goal. And their goal has been very clear from the very beginning. You'll sit down, keep your fucking pie hole shut, and do as you're told. You'll own nothing and be happy. They've been very bold about what their position has been. And if you don't understand that your role in defending your rights is defending your rights by saying, no, I'm not doing that. It's more than your vote. It's everything about you. When you say no, it's everything. I'm not doing that. I'm not paying those fucking taxes. I ain't doing it. And you know what? When we get enough people doing that in this country, when we get enough people who are really pissed off and ready to do something, not just bitching and moan about it, then they'll take action. Until then, nothing changes.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
From the halls of Congress
Across the nation.
and around the globe.
You're getting the latest news and conservative views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners. Learn how you can save up to 70% on your healthcare costs with just one click. Visit CramerSez.com/impact for complete details. That's CramerSez.com/impact.
What is Impact Health Sharing?
Impact Health Sharing isn't insurance.
It's a modern, affordable alternative to traditional health insurance, offering significant cost savings.
Most members save 30 to 50% on healthcare costs. With Impact Health Sharing, you enjoy the freedom to choose any doctor without in-network restrictions.
With an easy, hassle-free enrollment process.
Plus, access telemedicine 24/7 with $0 provider fees.
Call 844-827-2637 to learn how you can save 30, 40, even up to 50% on your healthcare costs.
The CramerSez Project is back.
With global news and local views.
You're watching the Kramer